refuted Mkwanazi's claims, stating he was only acting on instruction for the dockets to be handed over to his office. Oren Singh reports.
While the Commission has not yet identified who the next witness is, it's understood that the topic relates to the 121 dockets. The dockets were taken away from the PKTT following a contentious instruction for the task team to be disbanded. Mkwanazi accused suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya of having a vested interest in protecting those implicated in the dockets after they were transferred to his Pretoria office. During his appearance before Parliament's ad hoc committee, Sibiya stated he instructed the dockets be transferred to his office following the directive by National Police Commissioner Fanny Masimola. In August, Masimola confirmed that the dockets, 107 of which relate to cases of murder, had been handed back to the PKTT to continue with their investigations. Aryan Singh, Eyewitness News.
An inquiry into the fitness to hold office of Johannesburg prosecution's boss Andrew Chau is set to begin this morning. Chau was suspended by President Cyril Ramaphosa in July amid serious allegations against him. Khomoso Madise takes a look.
Advocate Andrew Chau has held the post of South Gauteng Director of Public Prosecution since 2011, and since then he's faced several allegations of quashing prosecutions against the politically connected. Some of the allegations that will take center stage at the inquiry is the decision to withdraw a murder case against former police crime intelligence boss Richard Mdluli and pursuing racketeering charges against former KZN Hawks head Johan Boyson despite a lack of evidence. This week, prosecution's boss, Shamila Batowi, is expected to testify at the inquiry after she recommended Chauke's suspension to President Cyril Ramaphosa. Chairing the proceedings will be retired Justice Besan Gabinde, with Advocate Elizabeth Baloyi Mia and Attorney Tenjiwe Vilagazi. Khomoso Modise, Eyewitness News.
The Special Investigating Unit says a court order barring the corruption watchdog from investigating Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane's university admission won't stop its probe. This follows confirmation of the judgment recently handed down by the Bisho High Court concerning the SIU's conduct in its investigations related to Mabuyane. The SIU was probing claims that due processes were not followed when the Premier was accepted to the University of Fort Hare for a master's degree in public administration. Nowukayam Dambo reports.
The Eastern Cape High Court recently ruled in favour of Premier Oscar Mabuyane, ruling that the SIU's probe into his university admission was unconstitutional and an abuse of power. The Premier's office has since confirmed that Mabuyane has instructed his legal team to challenge his deregistration by the University of Fort Hare and the forensic report that the institution relied upon in making its determination. But the SIU says the court ruling doesn't affect the probe after the watchdog requested an amendment to the initial proclamation to extend its scope and duration. The SIU says it will refer any evidence of criminal conduct uncovered during its investigation to the NPA for further action. Nogukanyam Dambo, Eyewitness News.
And Johannesburg is gearing up for what is arguably the most important event on the country's calendar this year. The G20 Leaders Summit is set to get underway this weekend. Thousands of international delegates, media representatives and visitors are expected to gather at Nasrec Expo Centre for the two-day event. Authorities have successfully completed a comprehensive G20 safety drill, testing traffic management, emergency protocols and coordination between JMPD, the police and the Road Traffic Management Corporation. Johannesburg Metro Police Department spokesperson Kolani Fihla.
We have been going through intensive planning since it was announced that South Africa will be given the presidency for the G20. So a lot of coordinated efforts have been put in by various law enforcement agencies.
Fihla says the following major routes and areas will be affected.
It's the N1, the N12, the N3, the M1, the R21 and R24, and within then the suburban areas, then it will affect areas of Stanton, Melrose Arc, Fourways, parts of Roodepoort, and in Rosebank, Westcliff and Parkview.
Gold is trading at $4,057.46 an ounce. The rand is at 17.10 to the dollar, 22.48 to the pound, 19.84 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $63.78 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the N3 North between Vincent Chabalala Road and the Baklu interchange while traveling in Edenville. An accident reported along the R24 West. It happened right near the N12 merge. It's causing delays coming out of Edenville Road.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng with scattered showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 17 and 18 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. The Matlanga Commission of Inquiry is set to hear testimony on the 121 dockets that were handed over by the Political Killings Task Team to National Police Headquarters in Pretoria.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
8 minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, happy Monday. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show. It's wonderful to have you with us here on 702. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and I hope you're good this morning in this drizzle. Is it still drizzling outside? Please be safe out there. We have visitors this week in Mzansi. Are you ready to play host? It's the G20 summit this week. We have world leaders coming. We have assumed the presidency of G20 group of nations for the first time ever. So this is a big deal for us. The G20 leaders have for decades sought to collaborate and build consensus on mutual global issues. And this year, we have been privileged enough as South Africa to host those collaborations and discussions that have now culminated into the summit taking place this week. And we've probably by now hosted over 100 meetings. I think initially we wanted about 100 and the plan was to host about 130 meetings. I don't know if we've particularly reached that, but probably over 100 meetings that we have hosted so far. Meetings throughout the country. And we've used those meetings as a great opportunity for us to showcase our provinces. So I guess the question is, how have we used this G20 presidency to our advantage? And I know we'll have a fuller answer to that after the summit, but from the meetings that we've had so far, as South Africa, as a continent, what do we hope to leverage from this great opportunity? What must government use this opportunity this week to advance? I'd like to know what your thoughts are. I've always thought, the G20 presidency gives us the opportunity to strengthen the voice of the global South, because that voice needs to be louder and louder and needs to be taken seriously. To lobby for the restructuring of the multilateral organizations like the United Nations Security Council. We've made so much noise about this on the show in the past. We want to increase collaboration. Of course, we want to secure greater trade relations. We want to be able to increase investment and we want to push for peace and security and democracy as well. What do you think is the rare opportunity that this G20 presidency gives us? What are your hopes and expectations? Because this week is big for us as South Africa. 011-883-0702 is the number to dial this hour on the 702 open line. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. And what differences have you picked up, by the way? Are there any streets that are now cleaner than usual? Are there roads that are without potholes now for the first time ever in a long time? Are you seeing police visibility? What have you picked up that's new? Because that shows that something special is happening. Something that shows that we have visitors. Are you picking up anything at all? Maybe the road you usually use coming or going to work is a little different now. Maybe there are already some closures or just no potholes or the traffic lights are working. You're seeing police visibility. What is it that you're picking up? Give us a call or send us a WhatsApp voice note. And I also want to know if your industry or business is benefiting in any way from the G20 this week. From this week's activities, what are you expecting? Maybe you're in the hospitality sector. Have your hotel rooms been booked to capacity? Or maybe you're in the security sector. Are you getting any business? Whatever industry you may be part of. Maybe you're an Uber driver. Do you expect a lot of activity this week? As a police, maybe you've been asked to work extra hours. 011-883-0702. But seriously, we do have visitors from other countries this week. So in your small little way, let's welcome them and give them the warmth and hospitality we are known for. Did you hear what happened at the ANC-NEC meeting this past weekend? Reports suggest that President Cyril Ramaphosa dared NEC members and political detractors to stop discussing his exit in dark corners like cowards and tell him to his face if they want him to resign. Ramaphosa told the NEC that if he's asked to resign, he will do it, and he could even do it tomorrow, the next day. And these comments come as there has been speculation about what the future of the president looks like in the ANC. In fact, there have been media reports already that he's planning to resign after the G20 summit, and that has already been denied. Where do you think these rumors come from, number one? Because that's how it really naturally begins, eh? When Thabo Mbeki was forced to leave office, that's how it started. When the former president, Jacob Zuma, was recalled, that's how it started. It normally starts with the rumors. People start planting stories. They tell journalists that, we've got information for you. And then they give them their own evidence. Journalists, some of them start running the stories. And then you start hearing reports about who could be the possible caretaker or someone who becomes president while that person is recalled. And that's how it begins. And that's why you've already started seeing stories and opinion pieces written about the former president Thabo Mbeki and whether or not he's positioning himself to be a caretaker. These are people's views. They could be wrong or right. Some people are whispering things about Togo Titiza, the Speaker of Parliament. But this is how it begins. But I'm interested in what you think is at play here. Do you see the president seeing out his term, unlike his two predecessors? The ANC has refuted these claims that the president won't finish his term. Here's the ANC spokesperson, Noneba Mhlawuli. In fact, I'll play you that clip in a moment of her this weekend refuting these claims that have been made by some of these. You've got it, Abel? All right. Here's what she said this weekend.
Of a departure lounge. I'm not sure what departure lounge that is, but as far as we are concerned, there is no departure lounge in the National Executive Committee. This National Executive Committee, with its president, was elected in December 2022. Our term ends in December 2027, and our term will end with President Cyril Ramaphosa as the president of the ANC, where he will then be handing over if he doesn't, of course, decide to stand for a third term. That was that in jest. That was a joke. But to answer your question, there is no departure lounge. President Ramaphosa is the president of the ANC, and that his term ends in 2027 in the ANC, and that whatever other rumors that are there, we cannot speak to or verify for any other reason. On your question around the reasons, I have indicated that it was a decision of the NEC that, remember, the decision to have the closing remarks open and closed is really something that is decided by the leadership of the ANC to say that there are issues that we feel that we should communicate publicly, and sometimes there are issues that we communicate after the meeting.
So that's precisely what she has said. But she's saying it and she's so sure. And I bet you other ANC spokesperson in the past, when there were rumors about Thabo Mbeki or Jacob Zuma, probably said a similar thing. But hey, let's wait and see how it goes. What do you think is at play here, though? And I wonder what you think things would look like if the president was recalled or decided to resign and didn't see out his full term. what do you think that would mean? Not only for this country, but for the African National Congress. I wonder. At 10 o'clock, there are two stories we're keeping a close eye on. The Auditor General, Tsakani Maluleka, has used her new powers for the very first time to issue a certificate of debt against the municipal manager, who must now personally pay back 4.6 million rand. And this follows an inflated tender for water tank services in the Ngaka Mudiri Mulema district municipality. I think this is important because we have seen instances where whenever there are tenders that have been issued irregularly, who actually is held responsible for that? Sometimes you go after the business people, but there are people who have signed off on those tenders in the municipality that have been left without any accountability pursued whatsoever. So this is important because municipal managers must know that what they signed off on, they must be confident, or else they'll be held accountable for it. And yes, sometimes they receive pressure from the mayors, but you must always get your mayor to put it on paper. Otherwise, you are the one that's going to pay the price. So that's a conversation that we want to have at 10 o'clock. There's also a story that the Daily Maverick ran around the Colin Mashawana Foundation. Apparently, the foundation has exited its IDT EPWP contract after the Daily Maverick exposed fraudulent workers' signatures and documents in the foundation submitted to get money from the IDT. I also think this is an important story to keep a close eye on, because if there's a foundation that has somehow gotten work from the IDT, but the foundation somehow is also involved in the building construction of the IDT CEO's home, those are things that are supposed to concern all of us. And I think we've got to keep a close eye on why are they exiting this contract, what happened, what have they failed to do as per their contractual obligation, and what's happening with that house at Waterfall that the Daily Maverick reported that the Colin Mashawana was somehow sort of leading the construction of the IDT CEO's home. So hopefully we can get the journalists to speak to us about that as well. And then at 10:30, we're going to continue with the series that we started where we look at South African wars. It's like a history lesson of sorts, which I've enjoyed so much over the last couple of weeks. We started by looking at the first Boer War. We discussed the Anglo-Zulu War of 1879, and then we discussed the Anglo-Boer War. Today we're going to be discussing the Koisan-Dutch Wars. At 11 o'clock, we do our Family Matters feature. Today we're discussing how to put boundaries on your generosity. I mean, how many of you who are generous have been able to put boundaries? That's a conversation we're going to have at 11 o'clock. That's the show coming up over the next 3 hours.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Kustas, you're calling us from Midrand. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, good morning. Dear Clement, I'm hoping that those rumors about Ramaphosa leaving actually become true. Clement, when you analyze the presidency or the leadership of Ramaphosa throughout the country, you can sum it up in one way. Things have gone from bad to worse under him. And therefore, we cannot keep a man who's failing on the job and we think that he's going to do things better. Now, the recent comments Clement on the gala of the Navy by the Chief Admiral of the SA Navy, Clement, concerned me deeply. He says that the South African National Defence is being defunded by National Treasury. And there's proof to that effect, because what happened in the DR Congo shows to the fact that the military is being defunded, but it's not being publicly stated so. Now, the public-private partnerships that President Ramaphosa is doing, the Navy boss says that a private company must police the waters of South Africa. Can you imagine, Clement, that how much government money is going to spend to give that money to a private company? And yet they cannot give it to a military organization that would actually employ far much more people than it would to a private company. So I'm suggesting, Clement, that when you analyze Ramaphosa and his government, he has failed dismally. Clement, he has been failing on economic policy. He has been failing to deal with crime. He has been failing to deal with corruption. And so much so that now we are being disrespected by all Tom, Dick, and Harrys from across the African continent, even the world, who just want to rock up via back door. And then the next thing we say, we don't even know people. So there is such a high level of the breaking of the rule of law in the country to a point that there can only be one way. She must leave. And I hope that the NEC would get the courage to do so for the benefit of South Africa, not for Ramaphosa, because that's a problem. They think that Ramaphosa is not South Africa. When military generals are unhappy this way, when security services, SAPS is unhappy this way, and when Andrew Chau sits in office 2 years later, causing damage, and he doesn't remove him, when he was told, that shows me and shows all of us that this is not the guy who is for South Africa, he's only for himself. And two, he sits there at the benefit of DA, so he must go. Thank you.
Kustas in Midrand, thank you so much for your thoughts. And remember, this is not even a discussion that the NEC has had. I'm just asking hypothetically what you think would be the consequences, if any. But the president basically over the weekend said, I dare you to tell me to my face to step down, and I will if you say so. What I'm saying is, this is how it normally begins. There are always going to be denials. The ANC will refute. And then the president will say, if the ANC wants me to leave, I will leave. It normally starts like that. And then the people against the president will start planting stories in the media. The people for the president will start putting out the positive things that he's been able to do. And then boom, one day there's someone who stands up in the NEC and says, I think we must have this conversation. But also that depends also the kind of support the president has in the NEC. And so far, you could argue that he still has some considerable support. Tabogo, you are in Davidton. What are you expecting from the G20 summit?
Oh, thanks, man. I'm currently expecting nothing. Ne? The reason behind that is that we are expecting a bunch of rich people or rich countries to come and dictate how our policies are actually going to be looking like.
What do you mean dictate?
So our own government at this current point isn't doing enough for its country, isn't doing enough for the poor, the marginalized communities, the working class, right? And that G20 setting is going to be pretty much influential when it comes to policies that perpetuate capitalism, right? And on a ground level now, even most people in our communities don't even know the essence of why the G20 is actually convening. And we speak about it in the news and radio in bits and bits and bits of pieces, but then we are not expanding to what the G20 is currently.
I don't know, have you listened to the radio the whole day, every day, since the beginning of this year?
I have.
So you listen to all the radio stations every day at the same time?
No, not at the same time.
Okay.
So what I listen to 702.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. What I'm trying to say is you can't make a statement like that. So you don't know that there's no conversations that have been had. I can tell you here on this station, we've been intentional about having so many conversations about G20 and B20. And if you don't mind, I can send you podcasts of those conversations where we explain what it is and why it is so important. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, we have another scheduled conversation for Wednesday where, again, we're going to have a conversation about what is this thing and why does it matter for you as a South African. But also to correct you, Tabogo, G20 doesn't dictate to a country what to do. G20 summit is actually a multilateral platform. These are conversations that leaders are having about the issues that face the globe. No G20 has ever gone to any country and said, this is what you must do with your own policies. So I'm not sure what your reference point is there.
So my reference point, Clement, here is that we have been in spaces where we have been talking about the G20 and the intentions behind the G20. Hence, I'm even saying in this call now that we are in a position where our country isn't doing enough for South Africans, right, and people that live in South Africa. The poverty is very dire in this country. The working class are still being taxed, right? And we want that G20 summit to then address how do we tax the 1%, the rich of the richest in this world, compared to how we are taxing ordinary citizens, right? we need to ensure that the richest people in this country, in this globe, are actually taxed much more compared to an ordinary citizen. Because if we actually want to address these current inequalities that are being faced in the world, we need to go to that basic route. Hence, I'm even saying to you now that the reason I'm saying that there isn't much education about this is that I'm talking this on a community level. It's very rare to find these conversations happening on a ground level. Yes, they can happen via radio. You can inform people about what the G20 is, but on a community basic level, how do we go in these communities and ensure that we will populate popular education material to say, this is what the G20 is saying, what's your intake on this, right? Because I think the assumption that maybe if it's on TV, if it's in radio, it's very pretty much informative. No.
Got you.
We
So
need to go to these communities.
And have conversations with the communities, and government could do that, whether through the GCIS or through other forms, to say maybe, and that's a way to also get the communities to tell the government what they would like to hear, or what their expectations are from the G20. Or maybe the government just thinks of it as a high-level conversation with the world leaders. But to be clear, I mean, G20 addresses issues, global issues. They build consensus on mutual global issues. No G20 comes and wants to dictate to a country what their policies should be. Debza, thank you in Davidton for your call. It's 28 after 9.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
We want to talk about gender-based violence in South Africa.
Yo, Africa, this is so bad. What we are talking about on the media today is what has been reported. Remember, Africa, there was a policewoman, Rasuche, who went missing for years. And where was she found? She was found in a trench of a yard somewhere in Pretoria.
We have to have the death sentence. We have to have rapists castrated. I don't care whether it doesn't work, the death sentence, but do we need those people walking around the streets?
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS Legal to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
After a short migration, the family arrives at the premier resort, rich in food, drink, and entertainment. The young, freed from classroom captivity, head straight for Kids Club and the safety of the herd. The adult male meanders to the scuba center, while the matriarch basks by the pool.
Book your resort escape to Knysna, East London, Scottborough, or Sunny Pass at premierhotels.co.za.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
I know we produce some of the world's sweetest oranges and I suppose some of the world's most bitter lemons. What really drove this strong growth?
We have improved production practices at farm level, which ultimately gave us good quality fruit. We also had better coordination in terms of logistics.
Dr. Boychokan Chabele, CEO of the Citrus Growers Association.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by ABSA CIB, named Best Cash Management Services in Africa at the 2025 EMEA Finance Treasury Services Awards.
9:31, time for the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. We return to your calls and WhatsApp voice notes after this. Sviso, hi.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. The Matlanga Commission of Inquiry is set to hear testimony on the 121 dockets that were handed over by the Political Killings Task Team to National Police Headquarters in Pretoria when proceedings resumed today. The alleged irregular transfer of the dockets were one of the key concerns raised by KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi during his explosive media briefing in July. DA members of Parliament Willie Okamp and Alexandra Abrahams are set to be sworn in as members of President Cyril Ramaphosa's cabinet this morning. Okamp and Abrahams were appointed during a minor cabinet reshuffle last week. Okamp replaces Dion George, who was fired as the Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, while Abrahams will be sworn in as the Deputy Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. And the trial against MK Party Member of Parliament Duduzile Zuma Sambudla returns to the Durban High Court today. The daughter of former President Jacob Zuma faces 2 counts of public violence and another of incitement to commit terrorism linked to the deadly July 2021 unrest. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Heading towards the city of Tshwane via the R21, we've got roadworks taking place along the route right near Olifantsfontein Road, causing delays. There's also queuing traffic along the N3 North due to more roadworks. This is delays between Vincent Chabalala Road and the Baku interchange. Please try to use the Mark 1 North instead if you're heading towards areas like Sunny Hill as well as Morningside. While traveling in Edenville, an accident has been reported. This one is along the R24 West right near the N12 merge. Delays from the Edenville Road exit. And there's another accident seen on the M2 East. This is right after the Crown turn off. It is causing delays towards Boyson's Road. Please be on the lookout there. And traveling on the M2 West, bumper to bumper traffic between Heidelberg Road and the Crown interchange, and heading towards Sandton. We still have got that major delay due to an accident. This is between the Killarney Benz and Corler Drive. Please be on the lookout there and drive with care. Traveling in Gilview, we've got an accident on the N12 East. It's right after Klipprivier Drive. It's causing heavy traffic volumes. If you're heading towards Germiston or even the east of Joburg, try to use the M2 West or even the N17 West. I'll have more updates for you. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
On 702.
25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Let's continue with your calls on 011-883-0702. Your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. I've been asking you about the G20. Are you ready to play a host as a citizen of this country? Because the G20 summit takes place this week. We've got world leaders that are coming here, and they will be having important conversations and building consensus on mutual global issues. And this year we have been hosting a number of meetings and discussions that are now culminating in the summit this week. Have you picked up any new things? Anything different that you've picked up? Perhaps roads that are more cleaner, perhaps more police visibility, but the more interested also in how you're benefiting. Maybe as a hospitality sector, has business picked up? As an Uber driver, are you expecting a lot of activity this week? Or maybe you've already started experiencing a lot of activity. Maybe you're in the security sector. Have business picked up for you as we prepare for this G20 summit this week? I'm also asking you about the comments made by the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa daring his detractors to stop discussing his exit in dark corners like cowards and come tell him to his face if they want him to resign. And he said, if you tell me to do so, I'll even leave tomorrow. What do you think is at play here? What I've said is, with my experience, this is how it all begins. And I wonder if this is going to end the same way that it ended with President Cyril Ramaphosa's predecessors. Let's go to your WhatsApps.
Hi, Clement. Morning, Clement. Morning, Bruaga. I'm an Uber driver. Yeah, we do expect some activities, at least in Yana or Hono Pushanyana, at least in Yana, something Yana Yodimunyana, when because of Tutarna Velatra Spani these days, Spanish are not class anyway. But now, honestly speaking, I'm just worried about why should they be doing things now because of G20, it's coming and whatever. Now my wish is just that why in this week in Pula strong should rain, because we know when it's raining it will expose them, or no, they are doing nothing, because our drainage system anyway is not working. The water is always flowing on the road, like we don't even know where to go when it's raining. So I just wish we can Pula kind of strong, then whatever that they thought what they are doing to pretend as if things are okay, it should expose them or things are not okay.
Morning, Clement. Nothing I'm benefiting, and I don't think I'll benefit anything from this G20. In this government, you are 35 years of age and over, you don't get funding. Funding is for the political elite only. I've got a company since I don't know when. I've never received any funding from the government. It's our spaza shops. That sector is gone. Right now, I'm an Uber driver. The Uber charges the smallest prices, the smallest 23 rand, 18 rand. You know, we are just getting used left and right as black communities here. So I don't think anything wow is going to come out of this G20. We are suffering. We are still going to suffer. Our children is going to suffer. No one is out there for us. The government is not out there for us. It's for all these other foreigners and the rich people and for the political elite only. Also from Naledi.
Morning, Clement. Morning, 702 Land. Mpo from Johannesburg South. Clement, is funny how things are happening when there's guests. You know, it reminds me of when I was growing up. You know, my mother will take out those plates, you know, and those pots and those cups and glasses that, you know, we were never allowed to use. You know, we could only use them only when there were visitors. This G20 feels the same way. Feels like we are being neglected all the way as South African citizens, but only when there's visitors, then ubkazi siyashine kushawa sprinkling hey yakhanya. Yeah, no, this government, I'm telling you, they don't prioritize their citizens, but they prioritize anybody who's not the citizen of South Africa. Yeah, I wonder where we are going.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
Do we complain when our parents take out like the special, you know, cups when they're visitors, the special plates when they're visitors? I mean, isn't that just the nature of how we do hospitality, just generally? Like, if there's special things happening, you know that your family actually does spring clean. Maybe your mom has been complaining, or your dad, that we haven't cleaned this house in 6 months properly. But when the visitors are coming, or there's like a ceremony, then you start cleaning properly. Isn't that just the nature of how we're supposed to do things? And look, I get your point that there are certain things that have been neglected by our government. They should have addressed them and attended to them. They failed to do so, and they only want to do so just because they are visitors. Some things are just so basic that you don't need to wait for visitors to attend to. But having said that, I also understand that, I mean, there's no country that's going to host such an important meeting and they don't do anything to prepare. So that would be weird to expect us, like our government, to just go, oh, let's just open the doors of the Sandton Convention Center and let's just have these leaders, and we're not going to do anything to prepare and clean up and get ready for the visitors. Rakwena, you are calling us from Pretoria North. What do you want to say about President Cyril Ramaphosa?
Yeah, hello.
Sure.
Yeah, I wanted to comment about this thing of the ANC, Ramaphosa, president, and so on. My point is here, I don't like it. I mean, it's not that I support Ramaphosa, but people who always say these things of presidents going away, removing this and that, they normally will not give you an alternative for who must come in to replace them. They do. They'll just say, let him go. And when you ask them who must come in, they don't say it, because the question is, you can't support people who don't give you an alternative, because you may find they want to bring in somebody who's worse than Ramaphosa. So it is always fair that when you say Ramaphosa must go, give us an alternative. Then if it's a worthy person with good credentials, we can support that. And now that also takes us to another point. When you expect a president to do something in this country, we should also consider that this is not a one-party state. There are certain things that a president is also limited from doing. You know, a president in South Africa cannot go around shouting orders and forcing things to run the other way because they'll take him to court. That's what we've seen already. And the last thing that I want to put here on the table is that Mbeki, not very long time ago, raised the issue of changing the way we choose presidents. And I think that would be the most appropriate thing to do, to change the constitution and decide, for people to choose the president they choose, they want, because that will be a fair way of choosing a president than to have a political party giving us a person that they want because they want to achieve certain things.
Don't hold your breath, because there have been so many recommendations for the changing of our electoral system to give effect to that, exactly that. And political parties just don't support that. I bet you the party, even when the Chief Justice through the state capture commissions, the recommendations, you could tell from political parties that they're not keen on that, because then you're taking the power away from them. They want power themselves. So throughout the years, and it's not just during the Ramaphosa presidency, the Van Slabet report, the Kgalema Motlanthe report, I can go on and on. There have been recommendations to that effect. But we just have politicians who are not interested in making that the reality, because they don't want accountability to be centered around you. They want power themselves. So, I mean, that would be great, probably, but don't hold your breath, my friend. In Rakwena in Pretoria North, thank you for your calls. Let's go hear from, is this Edward, who's calling us from Glen Vista? Edward, hi.
Hi, Clement, how are you, sir?
Sure, man, go ahead.
I'm all right, thank you. Man, I'm just worried about people like Kustas for encouraging that the president of the country must be sucked in. You know, there was Elon Musk's father. When they say the black people, they're feeding the black people. You know, we actually, supporting that narrative that black people cannot use their minds. I mean, President Ramaphosa is not, I don't understand why they're saying he's a useless president. I mean, he's trying his best. He's trying his best by at all costs. But now, for that narrative that, no, you must put, and he doesn't suggest who must be put in. And then besides that, look at the era of Thabo Mbeki. Thabo Mbeki was doing well, and then people like saying, no, he's doing nothing. He's going up and down. America and South Africa is doing nothing for the country. And they put a puppet like Zuma, of which he destroyed the country. Now they want to do the same thing. And people like Elon Musk, they also look at these blackies. Look at these, Gasparos. They basically stupid. You know what I mean? And I don't understand it, how people think. You know, we must be proud of being like Africans. We must be proud of being, you know what I mean? Like, and let's support what is going forward. You cannot put people, look, we cannot support the narrative of going backwards all the time. I mean, like, if we sack the president, this country will go backwards. The African country will be affected. The country will be affected. Everything will be affected. I don't understand it. Why? Yeah. Where is that? Where is that mind? Where is it coming from? You know, this whole thing is about destroying the country and destroying and then giving these people like Elon Musk's father, a joy and say, look at the black people, how useless they are, because they can't think. They will always be selfish. Look, there's people, they say, look, I mean, this G20 is not doing well for them. It's not about, it's for the country. It's not about, it's not about myself. If I'm not benefiting anything, yes, but there are people who are benefiting. I must rejoice because, look, I mean, like, catering industry will be benefiting. It's not everybody must be benefiting. You must be patriotic. This is what is important.
Okay, Edward in Glen Vista, thank you for your call. Let's be careful even in our moment of passion, right, how we use the words. And I apologize on his behalf for the usage of that K word earlier on. I think we need to be very careful as to how we even characterize each other. We don't have to revert back to the words that have been used against, especially us as black people, that have been used in in a derogatory form, whether that is what people say in the dark corners or not. But I think I do take the point that he makes. We all can have different views. Kustas says the president must go because he's been useless. He's got every right to say that. And so do you. You've got every right to also say, but the president has made such huge improvements. Why do that when the president has done his best? That's also fine. So that doesn't mean that the other people who think the other way are just terrible people who don't care about this country. That's just their view. And that's why we've got the open line to debate that. It's 14 minutes now before 10.
So you thought you were building a business in this economy, but day by day, somehow it grew. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore, it's who you are, and you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
Progress builds. It moves, and it has a partner. That partner is Anglo-American. Together, we're building progress where it matters most across South Africa. With a 1 billion rand investment into education in our host communities, $15 million pledged to the Global Fund to support community-based health services, 1.6 billion rand in deals facilitated through our Impact Finance Network. And as a sponsor of B20 and G20, we're bringing that same spirit of partnership to a global stage, proving that when collaboration is real, progress moves faster. South Africa has a partner. Join the conversation on social media. Anglo-American, mining potential, building beyond.
As leaders in renewable energy finance, Nedbank has a track record spanning over 100 years. From pioneering large-scale solar and wind farms to financing complex energy infrastructure in emerging markets, Nedbank offers clients deep sector expertise, combined with the ability to navigate the unique challenges of Africa's just energy transition. See money differently. Nedbank. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
12 minutes before 10 o'clock. Let's start with your WhatsApps.
Ramaphosa makahambe. After this G20 thing that is prioritizing so much, that is cleaning because the visitors are coming. He's going. He knows he's going. He's not going to finish his term. And when it comes to this G20, Trump is not coming. We don't have an ambassador. They don't have our ambassador. China is not coming. Japan is not coming. Brazil is not coming. Putin, obviously, the International Court has issued a warrant of arrest. So this G20 thing is meaningless. It's useless. It's focusing on Joburg. They are benefiting in Joburg. What about the other areas? You're asking a question now whether I've seen anything clean. No. To us, the status quo remains because the president says you only clean when there's visitors. So in the other parts of the country, we don't have visitors. It's dirty. Sindile.
Yeah, Sindile, I do think you're mistaken, my brother. Just the fact that there are certain world leaders that are not coming to the G20 doesn't mean that it invalidates the G20 platform and its multilateralism. It doesn't. And in fact, if you go check, this is not the first time that there's a G20 summit and there are certain leaders that don't make it to that G20 summit. So maybe check that first, because then you'll make the mistake of thinking, oh, the problem is South Africa. It may be on the point of Donald Trump because he has chosen not to attend for a specific reason based on false reports and fake news. But actually, if you go check out other G20 summits, you'll see that there are instances where some world leaders have not been able to go. Also, go check where Xi Jinping has been. Xi Jinping is not even in Brazil, wasn't even there for the COP conference because of whatever reason. But he actually hasn't been traveling much around. Whether he's not well or he's got priorities in his country, I'm not so sure. So that context also matters. Otherwise, you're falling into this false narrative about South Africa being an issue for world leaders and that being a center of their decisions on whether or not they're coming to attend the summit.
Good morning, Clement Manyathela and the 702 listeners. Look, man,
The problem is not the president in the ANC, it's the ANC itself. Remember, they remove Mbeki, they remove Zuma, now they want to remove Ramaphosa, but the problem is still the same. The ANC must vacate power. They must move the ANC from power. The one from Pretoria.
Clement and the team Tabang from Cape Town. Clement, with me, with the ANC, I would think they need to grow up and stop this thing of recalling people whenever they feel like they're not happy with the next person. They can't wait for their person to take over, whatever that means. So I think instead of them plotting for Cyril to retire as the president, rather they work on finding a proper candidate, because right now they're going to have the same situation over and over and over again. Rather they go find a person who is going to do a way better job than, I don't know, because what they're doing, they need to grow up. This thing of recalling people whenever they feel like their needs are not met, it's the reason why we're here at this time as a country. They need to grow up as a party.
You get the award for, probably the best caller today. But it's true. The ANC needs to grow up. At what point, is this going to be then this is like the status quo. It's like it's expected now that as a president, no matter how bad or good things are going, they'll always find a reason to recall you. And it's all about their political expediency, these people who are pushing for these things. So I couldn't have said it better. They must just grow up, because this is exhausting. 7 minutes before 10.
Part of the 702 family.
Hi, my name is Mbalenhle Felicity Nkubane, and I'm from Johannesburg. I'm staying in Malaysia currently. 702 helped me through my depression, my divorce, COVID. So I'm very, very happy that 702 helped me through all of those years. And I'm still going to continue listening to you guys from the morning to the evening. And thank you, 702.
Welcome to our 702 family. Let's walk the talk.
Josie, my Josie, a city made of swag, passion and resilience. Over here, we rise with the sun. Amateksi. We are a city of doers, creators and believers. When we unite, yonke from corner offices to corner veggie stores or corner pre-chat and receipt. Josie, my Josie, a city where even those who were not born here are made here. Yabona la, citizenship is awarded to the curious. There's magic and beauty in our city. So we call on everyone to come experience it. Babiza bonke to come see Josie and all its people, because this city is all of us. Come witness our citizens do it. Babiza bonke to come see the actions of the invisibles, those building our city from the ground up. So we have a home we can all proudly call Josie, my Josie. Visit josiemyjosie.com to see how Josie does it.
Summer is about rewarding yourself with oceanic views, sizzling braais, and so much more. Earn your share of 120 million rand in real cashback, depending on your rewards tier, when you pay with your Absa Visa card. Plus, enter the Absa Swiper competition and stand a chance to win one of 10 cars. This summer could be the best you've had in years. Your story matters. Absa, T's and C's apply. Absa is an authorized FSP and a registered credit provider.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
5 minutes before 10.
Good morning, 702. Good morning, Clement. I disagree with a lot of the callers that are calling. I'm sensing a lot of negativity towards the president, towards the G20, towards any sort of progress that South Africa makes. Why is it that South Africans always have to focus on the negative? There surely are positives out there where the country has made strides. We tend to forget the positive, and we need to change that mindset. If we don't have a positive outlook on things, we're always going to get a negative outlook. So the majority of South Africans are pessimists, And it's very disappointing because if you look at the most successful countries out there, they are patriots and they stand behind their country. An American will stand behind Donald Trump, who's doing the most horrendous, making the most horrendous decisions, and still we overlook that. They're also going through issues. Every country is going through issues. So sometimes we need to look within and start being positive for positive things to happen. Molefe from Rureport.
Yeah, Molefe, look, I slightly agree with you there, but I want to provide some context. I agree with you that sometimes we are so negative. That's why I said earlier on, this is what we normally do when we've got visitors, but for some reason, people are expecting us to just open our doors and host world leaders without making improvements? I mean, that would be wild to do. Any country will always do that, right? So I agree with you that we need to maintain some level of positivity. We can't just be pessimistic about everything. Like anything that the president or government does, negative. But at the same time, I also do understand why some people are just frustrated and they take that negative posture. Because there's someone out there who has not had power for the last 2 years or for the last 6 months. But now they are going to have power for the next 4 days or for the next 5 days. Why? Because there's a G20 happening. There are people who have been calling on the police to come and be visible in their communities. There are people who have called on certain infrastructure issues to be attended to. That has never happened. But that's going to happen this time around for the next 5 days because there's a G20. So that can be frustrating. So we need to be able to understand that there are people who are going to be pessimistic from that point of view. And they are legitimately upset. But equally so, there are people who are just doomsayers. Everything you do or say, you'll never, ever, ever get them to see the light. They are just so pessimistic. And I just don't think that's healthy. Stephen, you're calling us from Randburg. What are your thoughts? Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Clement. How are you doing?
Sure, go ahead.
I just wanted to quickly just make a comment with regards to Ramaphosa. I think for me, this is deja vu. And I think I concur with you when you say this is how it starts. I remember, I'm old enough to remember 20 years ago at the University of Pretoria, on the eve of the NGC, Thabo Mbeki looked very strong as a leader of the ANC. And at that NGC, it became the turning point to what would happen in Polokwane 2 years later. We've got an NGC coming up in December, between the 8th and the 12th of December. And I can tell you it's the first time the branches of the ANC will be congregated in one place since the GNU. And listening to the ground and listening to some of the ANC members on the ground, they are not happy with that GNU. And I think a lot of it has got to do with the memories that are going on in the ANC corridors to say, do we still keep this man here? And I think this is the start of it. And they're putting out the feelers, they're putting out the waters, they're trying to put in an iron wall as the NEC that nobody must dissent. But let me tell you, when the branches meet, anybody can stand up. Just like Nothing Ted stood up at that 2005 NGC and said Zuma is not going anywhere, when Thabo looked very, very strong. And I suspect that there's something that's going to happen at that NGC. And then also, I think we get bogged down, Clement, with personalities in the ANC. The ANC has been in power for 30 years. Why do we go to the whole cycle of saying, oh, it was Deputy President Thabo Mbeki to Nelson Mandela, as if we separate their legacies? It's one party. It's one party. Like, why do you, separate the legacy of Cyril Ramaphosa when he was part of the top six with Jacob Zuma? Why do you separate the legacy of Thabo Mbeki and of Jacob Zuma and Thabo Mbeki when they were both in leadership in the top six? So I think that whole thing just needs to stop. At the end of the day, it's one political party. And then lastly, Clem, it's just, I know you're running out of time. Misinformation documentary yesterday on CNN. What a brilliant documentary it was. Very balanced in terms of how it characterized this whole narrative.
Is it the one with Elon Musk's dad?
The one with Elon Musk's dad. It also had Eugene Koza there. It also had Trevor Noah there. It also had quite a number of people making comments there. It was absolutely brilliant.
Okay, I'm going to check it out, Stephen. After the show today, I'll go watch it. Thank you for calling, Stephen, and important things you've raised, especially about the NGC. Something is brewing. These stories you're seeing being planted in the newspapers or being reported, it's got something to do with that important NGC conference coming up in December.
Smart Steve from Momentum, hello.
How's it, But? It's Jason here, your favorite gymfluencer.
Jason, still lifting more than your selfie stick?
Always, But. Gotta stay shredded, eh? But I'm worried about one thing. What if a major illness hits? Who's got my back?
Relax, Jason. Momentum's critical illness cover is your spotter. It offers the most comprehensive cover in the market.
Buddy, I'm signing up faster than I could do 10 reps. But I'm worried about something else, eh?
Let me guess. How many protein shakes it takes before you turn into the incredible bulk?
No, man. Will anyone notice if I skip a leg day?
Chat to your financial advisor about Momentum's critical illness cover. Momentum, protecting your journey to success. Momentum is an authorized financial services and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Dreaming of a tropical escape? World Leisure Holidays has your ticket to paradise with exclusive getaways to the Indian Ocean Islands. From the beaches of Mauritius and the Maldives to the charm of Madagascar, Seychelles, Zanzibar and more, your dream destination awaits. Take advantage of early bird specials and pay stay offers. Call 011-285-2500 and mention 702 for a mystery discount. Or follow us on social media or contact your nearest travel professional. Start planning your escape today. T's and C's apply.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. The Madlanga Commission of Inquiry has resumed this morning and it's expected to hear testimony on the 121 dockets that were handed over by the Political Killings Task Team to National Police Headquarters in Pretoria. The alleged irregular transfer of the dockets were one of the key concerns raised by KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi during his explosive media briefing in July. Mkhwanazi claims the dockets were taken away from the task team and were collecting dust in the office of suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya. Sibiya has refuted Mkhwanazi's claims, stating he was only acting on instruction for the dockets to be handed over to his office. Oren Singh reports.
While the Commission has not yet identified who the next witness is, it's understood that the topic relates to the 121 dockets. The dockets were taken away from the PKTT following a contentious instruction for the task team to be disbanded. Mkhwanazi accused suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya of having a vested interest in protecting those implicated in the dockets after they were transferred to his Pretoria office. During his appearance before Parliament's ad hoc committee, Sibiya stated he instructed the dockets be transferred to his office following the directive by National Police Commissioner Fanny Masimola. In August, Masimola confirmed that the dockets, 107 of which relate to cases of murder, had been handed back to the PKTT to continue with their investigations. Arun Singh, Eyewitness News.
DA members of Parliament Vili Okamp and Alexandra Abrahams are said to be sworn in as members of President Cyril Ramaphosa's cabinet this morning. Okamp and Abrahams were appointed during a minor cabinet reshuffle last week. Okamp replaced Dion George, who was fired as the Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, while Abrahams will be sworn in as the Deputy Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. Alpha Ramushwana reports.
Nearly 6 months after President Cyril Ramaphosa fired the DA's Andrew Whitfield as Trade and Industry Deputy Minister, Alexandra Abrahams has finally been appointed as his replacement. Whitfield was removed from office in June after undertaking an international trip without the president's approval. Dion George, on the other hand, was recalled from his ministerial position by his political party. DA leader John Steenhuisen has since denied that George's recall was due to underperformance. Abrahams and Vili Okamp are set to be sworn in at the Union buildings this morning. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News.
The trial against MK Party Member of Parliament Duduzile Zuma Sambudla returns to the Durban High Court today. The daughter of former President Jacob Zuma faces 2 counts of public violence and another of incitement to commit terrorism linked to the deadly 2021 July unrest. She is accused of using her ex-social media platform to incite violence, which led to the death of more than 400 people and saw widespread looting in KZN and Gauteng. The chaos happened after her father was jailed for contempt of court. Nhlanhla Mabaso reports.
The trial against Duduzile Zuma Sambudla is set to enter its second week after adjourning for 2 days last week. In the first week, the state argued that her social media posts spread terror and encouraged the looting of businesses in parts of the province. State Prosecutor Advocate Yuri Gangai also concluded leading evidence by Police Major General Gopal Gavenda, who was tasked to probe social media posts about the July riots. Gopal told the court that he believes Zuma Sambula's tweets sparked the violence. The 43-year-old pleaded not guilty to the charges against her. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Durban.
And Chief of the South African Navy, Monde Lubese, has raised some questions about what he believes could be a deliberate attempt to weaken the army. Lubese says budget cuts in the Navy and the rest of the South African National Defence Force have made it increasingly difficult to prevent illegal activities at sea, including human trafficking and the drug trade. Lubese made the comments while speaking at the SA Navy Gala concert in Pretoria over the weekend.
The unpatriotic and what appears to be a sellout posture of defunding the SA Navy and the SANDF in general leaves me with a question of whether the people behind what I would like to call nonsense, if they are not busy with a mission to privatize the SA Navy and the SANDF, seeing that the private security is a lucrative business in our country and it is replacing the state security machinery.
He says he's worried that some government officials are colluding with private security companies for kickbacks.
When our maritime domain is secure, our nation stands secured. But for that, we must first secure ourselves from within through good governance, coherent laws, accountable institutions, and leaders who put national interests above competition and personal greed.
Gold is trading at $4,057.46 an ounce. The rand is at 17.10 to the dollar, 22.48 to the pound, 19.84 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $63.78 a barrel.
There's queuing traffic on the M1 South between Grayson Drive and Collard Drive, while travelling on the M2 West delays between the Crown Interchange and Heidelberg Road.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng with scattered showers and thunder showers. The temperatures will peak at highs between 17 and 18 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. The Madlanga Commission of Inquiry has resumed this morning and is expected to hear testimony on the 121 dockets that were handed over by the Political Killings Task Team to National Police Headquarters in Pretoria.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
9 minutes after 10 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. And thank you for your calls, your WhatsApps, your voice notes, your contribution on the 702 open line. In fact, because I didn't get to play a lot of voice notes because we took a lot of calls, let me just wrap up that hour with a couple of voice notes before we start with our next discussion.
Morning, Clement. This thing of cleaning your house because of there's a special occasion or something, a ceremony, that's nonsensical, man. I don't get it, like, for real. So to give an example, like most funny, sometimes they will say our CEO have some visitors, so we need to clean the yard, we need to park the vehicles nicely. I'll say to the guys, why do we have to wait until our CEO have visitors? Because this thing, it must be like this every day. Our yard have to be clean every day. We must park the vehicles nicely every day. You don't have to wait for for our CEO to have a visitor so that we can clean our yard. It's nonsense, man. So I guess it's our government. So what can we do? What can we say? Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Clement. Godfrey speaking here. Clement, there is no way in hell that Ramaphosa will dare anyone. That man has got no backbone. There is just no way, I tell you.
Good morning, Clement. Ramaphosa must not be surprised when
ANC wants to recall him. That's the culture of the ANC. No president finished his second term. Even when he became the president, he started by becoming the caretaker president because Jacob Zuma was recalled. Big was also recalled. So there's nothing new. So he must not act surprised. Thank you very much. Peter Maila Machava from Letswata.
Good morning, Mr. Clay. Hope you well. Mr. Clay, regarding Ramaphosa, I really hope he does resign. Or I doubt he's going to get recalled. I hope he does I hope he resigns. Just so that there can be chaos and implosion in the ANC. And I hope it does happen after this G20, before the elections. I hoped that the MK party would have all the turmoil that it's having, and that's coming along nicely. Now it's the ANC's turn. So that come the next elections, they drop less than 30% and possibly 20%. Hector and Midrand.
Morning, Clement. Once the NEC of the ANC lets Mr. Ramaphosa go, that will be the end of the ANC. They just have to know that he's keeping them there on the number one spot. So they must just leave Ramaphosa alone until he finishes his term. Please, they mustn't confuse themselves.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
All right, 12 minutes now before, 12 after 10 o'clock. There is an important story that I really hope we're going to stay on. And I've spoken about this before. And I said to you, we need to make sure that we stay on this so that we see some level of accountability. There's no way that you can have a company or a foundation that does work with any entity, in this case a state entity, and then the state pays that foundation to do work, and then you now found out that actually the foundation has been involved possibly in fraudulent signatures for them to continue receiving monies from that state entity. And then you find out that that foundation is involved in building a home, right, for the CEO of that state entity. I'm talking here about the Colin Mashawana Foundation. The Daily Maverick is now reporting that it has exited the IDT jobs program after Daily Maverick's fraudulent signatures expose. And they've exited this EPWP contract after the IDT actually asked them for supporting documentation because there's an investigation that's currently underway. So we've invited Peter Louis Mybeck, who is an investigative journalist with the Daily Maverick, to give us context on what happened. And I want us to focus on this because I've said to you, one of the things I want to do over the next couple of months is to focus on these small implementing agencies of government, because that's where the corruption is also happening. And we are busy focused on the big state-owned entities, but they're actually implementing agents, even of government departments. And that's where money is also being stolen. We need to start paying attention to that. And this is part of those efforts. So let's welcome Peter Louis Mybeck, who's an investigative journalist who's been working on this story for some time now. Peter, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Yes, this is an important issue, and I hope we can get to the bottom of this latest round of reporting. So I think there's really a lot to unpack.
Yeah, let's start just with laying the foundation so that the listeners can understand why this is important and why it matters. Can you explain the relationship between the Colin Mashawana Foundation and the Independent Development Trust? What is this contract that they got? What were they supposed to do, and what did they do?
Yes, Clement. Yeah. So in mid-2024 last year, the Independent Development Trust, which is this government body that slots in under the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, they issued a tender inviting NGOs and non-profit and charitable foundations to apply for contracts to roll out on the IDT's behalf these expanded public works program initiatives all over South Africa. So your listeners would probably be familiar with the EPWP program. We frequently see individuals next to the roadside, for instance, they'll wear these EPWP branding, and they'd be cutting grass or tending to road maintenance and that kind of work. So it's a government initiative to foster or encourage employment in South Africa by offering employment opportunities to individuals who don't have work, and they get these sort of salaries in the range of 2,000 Rand a month, more or less. So it's really not a considerable income, but at least something for people who don't have work. So the IDT then, they get a chunk of the government's EPWP funding, and they then in turn go out on tender and invite entities like the Colin Mashawana Foundation, but also hundreds across the country, hundreds of other NPOs, to submit bids for rolling out EPWP schemes to employ people to get some employment going across South Africa. And then, worryingly, what we identified in the case of the Colin Mashawana Foundation, since our reporting started in August this year, is that there are these various discrepancies and issues with the Colin Mashawana Foundation program specifically. We reported in August, for instance, that there were workers down in the Free State who indicated that they weren't getting their money. They would sometimes get 300 Rand a month instead of 1,700 Rand a month. So there were these gaps between what was going to the workers and what the foundation was supposed to pay them. And now we also expanded our reporting, including this latest round, which shows that in Limpopo, where the largest batch of workers for the Colin Mashawana Foundation were located, that there appears to be an instance where hundreds of them, they signed for payments because you're supposed to sign these payment sheets to confirm that you got the money from the foundation. But it turns out that, hundreds of them possibly, the signatures on these documents were forged, and the money did go to the foundation, and then ultimately these workers did not get the money. And it's quite a heartbreaking story because frequently, they put in hours and hours of work.
Yeah.
And the money was not simply going
and
to
it's not
them.
even a lot of money, Peter. These people are actually desperate for that money, and yet for some reason it doesn't get to their hands as it's supposed to. What did the IDT do about this as soon as you exposed it?
Yeah, look, so we have to laud the IDT under its current leadership, its new leadership. It's got an acting CEO, and there's also a new board of trustees and a new chairperson. And I'm quite impressed by the speed at which they reacted to Daily Maverick's reporting. So on Monday, we put out what really looks like very compelling cases of alleged signatures fraud on behalf of the Colin Mashawana Foundation, and they then kind of effectively or immediately jumped into action and demanded answers from the Colin Mashawana Foundation. The IDT issued a letter asking for clarity on some of these allegations. They requested documentation that would have been in the Colin Mashawana Foundation's that they would have had to submit and had to collate and keep record of. And those were the clarity, the bits of clarity the IDT sought from the Colin Mashawana Foundation. But ultimately, the foundation then decided to, instead of cooperating with what appeared to be quite reasonable requests from the IDT, they then unilaterally decided to withdraw from the program instead of cooperating.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. And then now, help us understand what the relationship of this foundation is now with the CEO of the IDT, who's now on suspension, Tebogo Malaka.
Yeah, so there is, of course, that deeper backstory that, that kind of revolves around our August exposés. There was that really explosive bit of material, the video material that we had collected, where I had a meeting with the IDT CEO in Cape Town, and that's when that infamous bribe, the bribe offer was made by Tebogo Malaka and her spokesperson at his side, Pasha Makhalani. And that whole kind of bribe offer, the backstory there is the issue they wanted to cover up was this very matter. So I was looking into Tebogo Malaka's financial ties to Colin Mashawana, the chairperson of this foundation, because we'd collected information showing that the business person in question, Mr. Mashawana, he was in fact channeling money to a private property being built for Tebogo Malaka at the very time in which this EPWP contract was playing out at the IDT. So, you've got this instance or this case of money not going to EPWP workers where they should have been paid, and instead money seems to be flowing to, at least in two instances, to this property being built in the Waterfall Country Estate. And, that obviously raises questions as to whether the missing funds are in fact being diverted to building a property for the then CEO, IDT CEO, Tebogo Malaka. And that really is the issue. By all appearances, that they were so desperate to bury by offering me a bribe so that matter would not be exposed. And of course, we kept on working on the issue and then exposed all of those financial ties after we published that video in August.
How much money has the Colin Mashawana Foundation been paid by the IDT to manage these EPWP initiatives in these provinces? I think it was Limpopo, Free State, Northwest Gauteng, and KwaZulu-Natal, right?
Correct, yeah. So those 5 provinces, and it's a 60 million rand contract over 2 years. And it looks like my records show, the records that I've managed to obtain, shows that so far they've gotten 27 million rand. So, there's a fair bit of money to account for. If it really does, if it does come to the fore that most of that money did not go to the workers, or substantial chunks of that money wasn't paid out to the workers, then obviously there would be possible criminal implications and fraud implications and corruption implications that need to be probed further.
22 minutes now after 10 o'clock. After the break, we'll continue this conversation with Peter Louis Maibeck. If you've got something perhaps that piqued your interest, something you need clarity on, quickly give me a call on 011-883-0702 or send a WhatsApp on 072-702-1702.
As leaders in renewable energy finance, Nedbank has a track record spanning over 100 years. From pioneering large-scale solar and wind farms to financing complex energy infrastructure in emerging markets, Nedbank offers clients deep sector expertise, combined with the ability to navigate the unique challenges of Africa's just energy transition. See money differently. Nedbank. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
Enjoy the thrill of the Soccer Panthers Challenge Weekend Edition, an all-new platform from Hollywood Bets. You stand a chance to win a share of the 5 million rand jackpot when you bet 5 rand or more on selected EPL matches over the weekend and correctly predict 10 out of 10 winning margins. Or chase the share of the 50,000 rand leaderboard prize. Entry is free. Let this soccer season bring sizzling success. Bet now.
T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is licensed by the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Step into a world of unforgettable experiences in Dubai. From luxury beaches to underwater adventures. From authentic traditions to futuristic museums. Make it a Dubai adventure to remember with Emirates. Fly to Dubai from one of 3 gateways in South Africa. Start your holiday the moment you board with delicious regional meals, complimentary drinks, and up to 6,500 channels of entertainment. Fly Emirates. Fly better.
This year, the City of Gold will be welcoming 19 countries for the G20 happening for the first time in South Africa. And this Wednesday, John Pellman will be talking to Neptal Khoza from Santam. He will discuss the importance of this sponsorship, Santam's involvement in the G20 Disaster Risk Reduction Working Group, and other Santam initiatives and programs. Don't miss the conversation on 702 Drive with John Pellman on Wednesday between 3 and 6 p.m. Let's walk the talk.
702.
The Clement Manyathela Show.
Let's walk the talk.
25 minutes after 10 o'clock, we're having a conversation with Peter Louis Maibeck, who is an investigative journalist with the Daily Maverick. They have released a story around the Colin Mashawana Foundation. In fact, it's another story because following Daily Maverick's recent revelations over fraudulent signatures in a government employment scheme, the Independent Development Trust has demanded documents from the Colin Mashawana Foundation, the non-profit implicated in the alleged fraud. And instead of complying with the IDT's directive, the foundation has opted to hastily withdraw from the contract. You'll remember I mean, Peter Louis Maybeck was telling us that 60 million rand is how much this contract was worth. I think so far over 20 million rand has been paid to the foundation. And the people who work, through this EPWP program are so desperate, and they don't even get paid a lot of money. And yet, from the reports from Daily Maverick, some of them didn't get their monies. In some instances, they were not paid the monies as they were supposed to. And the important context to keep in mind here is while all of that was happening, right, while monies were paid to the Colin Mashawana Foundation, then the Daily Maverick reported that there was a property being built for the now suspended CEO of the IDT, Tebogo Malaka. A property being built inside the Waterfall Country Estate, and the reports detailed cash flows from the Mashawana-linked entities to contractors who are working on Malaka's new home. And these payments were effected within the very same period in which the IDT transferred the EPWP workers' salaries to Mashawana's charitable foundation. Peter Louis, there's a question here that I've got from a listener who wants to know what's happening. Are the Hawks investigating this kind of relationship, particularly this Colin Mashawana Foundation relationship with the suspended CEO in this property being built in Waterfall?
Yes, yeah. So we understand there is an active Hawks probe currently looking into the cash flows specifically related to that property deal and also the Colin Mashawana Foundation's EPWP work for the IDT.
Okay. And then another person, Mike, on the WhatsApp line says, Clement, is there any criminal case that is open against this Tebogo Malaka for all these allegations of corruption and wanting to bribe a journalist? What's the update on that? I mean, because that video that was released after your interaction with her, I mean, everybody was just shocked, and she tried to do interviews to sort of justify. It just didn't make sense still. Is there an investigation into that?
Yes, yeah. So those are separate matters, and there's another Hawks team looking at the video angle. So there's the alleged bribery investigation, and that is an active Hawks investigation. And then a separate Hawks investigation is ongoing into the EPWP contract and the property and those kind of financial dealings.
Okay. And in terms of the EPWP contract now, do we know what the IDT then's next point of call is? Because the foundation has walked away. I would imagine then they bring in the next, they'll try and get another, issue out a tender for another organization. Yeah. But are they going to continue with their investigation? Because the Mashawana Foundation withdrawing doesn't necessarily mean that, if they were investigating, that has to stop.
Yeah, no, thankfully, so I had a look at the letter that the IDT issued and also its statement afterwards, and luckily they seem to be quite resolute to continue their work. So they're not letting the Colin Mashawana Foundation off the hook merely because it's chosen to withdraw from the contract. They've got their internal checks and balances and their own processes, and they've indicated that they will continue to investigate the matter, those issues that we've exposed so far.
Well, Peter Louis Maybeck, thank you so much for speaking to us. He's an investigative journalist with the Daily Maverick. I thought it's important to get an update on what has happened between the IDT and the Colin Mashawana Foundation because, something has been brewing there for a while, and Daily Maverick has really exposed how the Colin Mashawana Foundation actually got to even get this contract to manage EPWP initiatives in these 5 provinces at a cost of 60 million rand. And now when you read that actually the foundation is somehow involved in a property being built at Waterfall Estate for the CEO, who we have seen in a video seemingly was present when a bribe was being offered to a journalist, makes you wonder. And remember, even in that video that was revealed, the CEO even said, we can, facilitate a meeting between you and the Colin Mashawana Foundation. They know, they're aware. There must be accountability for these things. It's 10:30. Time for the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. So hi.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. 2 DA members of parliament have been officially sworn in to President Cyril Ramaphosa's cabinet, filling the positions left vacant after 2 ministers were dismissed. DA national spokesperson Vili Okamp has this morning been sworn at the Union Buildings as the new Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment. Okamp's appointment comes after the party leader John Steenhuisen asked President Cyril Ramaphosa to remove Dion George from the position. The trial against MK Party Member of Parliament Duduzile Zuma returns to the Durban High Court today. The daughter of former President Jacob Zuma faces 2 counts of public violence and another of incitement to commit terrorism linked to the deadly 2021 July unrest. She is accused of using her social media platforms to incite violence, which led to the deaths of more than 400 people and widespread looting in KZN and Gauteng. And President Cyril Ramaphosa says the country will be able to showcase an economy on the rise as South Africa prepares to host the first G20 summit on African soil. Ramaphosa says several key indicators and developments in the past week illustrate green shoots of an economic recovery taking shape, from improved job numbers to better credit ratings. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
While travelling towards Woodmead, do expect delays on the N3 North between Marlborough Drive and the Bakru interchange. While heading towards Harton, an accident has been reported on the M1 South. It's right near Ethel Oaklands Road. It's causing delays from Greyston Drive. There's also queuing traffic, in fact, bumper-to-bumper delays between Boyson's Road and the Crown interchange. That's on the Mike 1 North. While travelling on the N12 East Gilview, an accident right near Klipprivier Drive. Delays from Xavier Street. Please be on the lookout there and drive with care. Travelling out of the city of Tshwane towards Midrand, we've got an accident reported on the N1 South. It's right near Samrand Avenue, causing delays from the Brackfontein interchange. And speaking of the city of Tshwane, we've got delays in Irene along Nelmay Pierce Drive, approaching the intersection of Main Road. This could be because of faulty traffic lights. Please approach with care. More updates coming up at the top of the hour. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, unfair blacklisting, or an uncontested divorce, Clientele Legal offers professional legal services to all South Africans. Our plans are affordable, and you receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our nationwide legal teams are standing by to support you 24 hours a day. Plus, all plans include a 5,000 Rand bail benefit. Join today. SMS legal to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We're also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct, to give you balanced programming, fair comment, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we're not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission, PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. For more, visit bccsa.co.za. You're with Clement Manyathela.
702. Let's walk the talk.
It's 25 minutes now before 11 o'clock. Remember, last month we started a new series on the show about South African wars. It's like a history lesson of sorts where we find out more about the wars that have taken place in this country. And we started with the first Boer War, and then we discussed the Anglo-Zulu War of 1879, and then we discussed the second Anglo-Boer War, and today we're discussing the Koisan-Dutch Wars, the early encounters between the Khoisan and the Dutch settlers at the Cape, because that set a stage really for some of the most defining conflicts in South African history, and they're known collectively as the Khoisan-Dutch Wars. But these confrontations were not a single continuous war, but a series of clashes from the mid 1600s to the early 1700s, driven by competition over land, over cattle, trade routes and political control. And what's fascinating about these wars is how they highlight the resilience of the Khoi and San communities. Because they resisted displacement, right? They defended their livelihoods in the face of increasing European expansion. And today, they remain essential to understanding colonialism's early footprint in South Africa and the long-term impacts on indigenous identity, on culture, and relations. If you have been following just the history of the Koisan-Dutch Wars, and maybe you've got some thoughts you want to share with us, reflections you've made yourself, or maybe you've got questions around what happened during that period, give us a call on 011-883-0702. You can send us a WhatsApp voice note as well on 072-702-1702. Michelle Johnson is the Secretary General of the Indigenous First Nation Advocacy South Africa, who's going to guide us through this conversation. Michelle, thank you for making time for us. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Clement. Thank you for having me on the show this morning and for making time to speak about, our history as the Khoi and San people.
What do we mean when we talk about the Koisan-Dutch Wars? Are these just like a single war, or are we talking here about a series of conflicts?
As you so rightly pointed out in your introduction, we are definitely looking at it as a series of conflicts, right? So it's a prolonged period of violent attacks rather than a single event, yes. So, while the first war, which took place around about 1659, and the second war, which was more in the 1670s, are the most defined, the tension and fighting over land and cattle was something that was consistent, right? It was a near constant feature of the frontier for decades and decades. So it's a continuous story of colonial expansion, if you can look at it that way.
What were the main causes of the tensions between the Khoi communities and the Dutch settlers? Because at some point, there was an establishment of a refreshment station at the Cape in 1652, and then we started seeing now the expansion. At what point did it become a moment of just violent clashes? And what was the source of that? Was it more the expansion, or was it just a disrespect of this is where you can trade and operate, but respect our territory as well?
Okay, so when the Dutch arrived, they weren't supposed to be there permanently, right? This was actually supposed to be just a temporary thing when they do come. And like you said, they were supposed to set up a temporary refreshment station, because the point, like at Table Bay in the Cape, was like a halfway point for them, right? They were primarily involved in the spice trade, so they went from Europe to Indonesia, and a lot of times as they were traveling, their ships took a bit of a toll, so it was a good point for them to then stop if there were any shipwrecks or something that they had to prepare. And also, like we said, there was the refreshment station. And in a book that I'm currently reading, it also speaks about the fact that, on such a long journey, people started becoming irritated with each other. So it was a good point for them to just all take a break from all of the chaos and things that may have been going on the ships, right? So, like I said, it was meant to be only a refreshment station. And the Dutch arrived promising temporary trade. But the moment they saw how fertile the land was there, they started thinking in a more ambitious way. And that's when they decided on permanent settlement. And this is the point where everything changed. And it sparked an enormous land grab. So the Dutch released some of their people, right? They called them the Freeburgers along the fertile plain of the Liesbeek River. And what they were doing was they built a fence, right? And they fenced in the most fertile prime grazing lands that the Khoi had actually used for their cattle. And they now cut off the people who are the owners of that land from grazing there. So this is where things actually started. This is where the war was really, really sparked. Because now they were threatening the very survival of these people and taking over.
Were the San communities involved in these conflicts in the same way as the Khoi, or did they experience colonial expansion differently?
So the San communities did experience it a bit differently, but they were certainly also victims of colonial expansion, right? I think the main wars that we primarily speak about is the Khoi and Dutch Wars, because they were fighting over fertile grazing land and cattle. But the San, they were a bit different. So they fiercely resisted colonial intrusion, right? And they had a very different way of approaching things. So they were very hostile. They didn't just, relentlessly just leave everything as is. In fact, because of the effects of the intrusion of the colonialists and them literally just doing as they wished on their land, and they basically eradicated the wild, right? Which the San people were living off. So they were now threatening the livelihood of the San people. And the San people didn't take this lightly. What they would then do is they would attack their homesteads, right? The homesteads of the colonials. And they would also just violently go in and reclaim cattle. So they were definitely, fierce competitors, if you can put it that way. Yeah, they meant war. There was no trade and negotiations with the San people.
Yeah. So what do we understand about the strategies that were taken during, this series of wars? How did the Dutch military strategy, for instance, differ from the tactics that were used by the Khoi and the San communities?
So the Dutch, if you're aware, built a fort, right? They called it, I think it's Fort the Goede Hoop, and they were then fighting from that fort, right? So they were using muskets, and that was their way of battling against the Khoi people. The Khoi, however, like the San, they had a more guerrilla warfare approach. So they knew that they didn't have the type of armor and ammunition that the colonials had. And they then avoided direct confrontation, right, because of that firepower that the Dutch had. So what they would do is they would go after what they call soft targets. They went after the homesteads, the settlers' farms. They burnt crops. They reclaimed their cattle, and they knew that these things were vital for the colonizers, as they obviously needed their food supplies. They needed homes. So that was their way of trying to weaken the Dutch and to also chase them off.
I see. I imagine that there were shifting alliances as well between the different Khoi groups, and I wonder what those dynamics what those dynamics played in the outcomes of the war. So when we were seeing the shifting alliances, that in any way did that somehow have an impact on the outcome of the wars?
I think that the colonizers were always a step ahead of us when it came to playing mind games, right?
Yeah.
And a deeply tragic factor that ultimately weakened the Indigenous resistance was the fact that they literally did come with that mission of dividing and conquering, right? Like the saying says, divide and conquer. That's exactly what they did. So the Dutch leveraged existing Khoi rivalries. They knew, like with a lot of tribes, there would sometimes be those infights, right? So they used that to their advantage. And what they did was they recruited some Khoi groups, and they formed alliances with them. So they would promise them trade goods or protection to fight against their rivals, like the Kohokwa people and so forth, right? So this strategy divided the indigenous population significantly. And this just caused our people to be in a more weakened position.
I see. It's 13 minutes now before 11 o'clock. After the break, I'll give you an opportunity to ask questions or to maybe give us your own inputs about the Koisan-Dutch Wars. Maybe you've read a book, you've watched a documentary about what transpired and something piqued your interest. What is it? And what question do you have about these wars that took place during that time? I mean, how incredible and crazy is it that from something that started as just an establishment of a refreshment station at the Cape back in 1652 would lead us to where literally we are right now, where we experienced colonialism, experienced apartheid, and we're here now. And all of this started when? In 1652, when the Dutch East India Company established a refreshment station at the Cape. If you've got questions, some inputs, give us a call on 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702.
Progress builds, it moves, and it has a partner. That partner is Anglo-American. Together, we're building progress where it matters most across South Africa. With a 1 billion rand investment into education in our host communities, $15 million pledged to the Global Fund to support community-based health services, 1.6 billion rand in deals facilitated through our Impact Finance Network. And as a sponsor of B20 and G20, we're bringing that same spirit of partnership to a global stage, proving that when collaboration is real, progress moves faster. South Africa has a partner. Join the conversation on social media. Anglo-American, mining potential, building beyond.
Corporates That Care promotes and encourages corporate leaders and all citizens to walk the talk for a better South Africa. Catch Corporates That Care this Wednesday at 10 to 9, featuring iStore. Their CEO, Chris Dodd, will be in conversation with Bongani Bingwa. Join us every Wednesday as we highlight the efforts of companies and brands dedicated to building our country. Corporates That Care is a Prime Media Cares initiative with 702 and Prime Media Outdoor. 702, let's walk the talk and make a difference together.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702. Let's walk the talk.
It's going up to 10 minutes now before 11 o'clock. We are having a conversation this morning about the Koisan-Dutch Wars. This is part of a series we started last month about South African wars and just getting a bit of a history lesson about how significant those wars were, what was the military strategy on both sides, were there dynamics within each groups, and how did that influence the outcome of the wars. And today we're really discussing what transpired during the Koisan-Dutch Wars, because there were these confrontations, not a single continuous war, but a series of clashes from the mid-1600s to the early 1700s, driven by so much like land, issues around cattle, trade routes, political control. And the wars have highlighted the resilience of the Khoi and San communities, because they resisted displacement and defended their livelihoods in the face of increasing European expansion. I've got your WhatsApps coming through on 072 702 1702. So let's start there.
Good morning, Clement Manyathela and 702 listeners. Regarding this Dutch Koisan-Dutch Wars, what I've read about is that the San became almost a common enemy between the Khoi and the Dutch, because the San did not keep cattle. They relied on wild animals for their meat. So when their land was invaded, eventually they were left with fewer wild animals. So eventually they had to start hunting the cattle that belonged to the Khoi, and some of them belonged to the Dutch. So that made it easier for the Dutch and the Khoi to see a San as a common enemy. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that WhatsApp. Michelle? Is that something that was picked? Yeah, go ahead.
No. I was also just listening. I mean, that's not much of a question. It was more of a statement, and it is true. And the same as I had mentioned earlier with, the internal rivalries. That was also something that caused a lot of friction and, basically war also between the Khoi and the San people, because it was now survival of the fittest situation.
Absolutely. On the WhatsApp line, Mposa's Clement, for more on the history of the Khoi and the San, read The Lie of 1652 and look for the SABC documentary, The Khoi Saga, which aired a few years back. Another one says, Clement, these wars were not about resistance, were more about resistance than competition. This year I read 2 books about colonialism, the best being Crimson Sands, a historical novel. That's a recommendation there on the WhatsApp line by Cecile. Thank you so much for that, Cecile. Michelle, how did these conflicts we're talking about reshape just the social and economic life for the Khoisan at the Cape?
These conflicts had a very devastating impact on the Khoi and San communities. They lost vast areas of land. They lost cattle. So they basically lost their entire wealth, right? They lost their independence and just everything, if you think about it. The defeat, right, that these people had on our people left us impoverished, and you can see that even now. Our people can be seen as a landless class of people. They were, because of these wars, the Khoi and the San people were forced into a system of labor. They now became servants on the very same farms that had been their ancestral lands. So now they were also working alongside other slaves, right? Remember that before the war started, and with the whole trade between Europe and Indonesia, there were always slaves that were brought along on these missions, right? So now we also see that there are slaves from other places that were brought to the Cape, and that's why you get a whole lot of people from different backgrounds in the Cape, right? Like you've got your Malays, there were people that were brought from Madagascar and various other places as well. But it really marked the beginning of a systematic economic dominion, right? And we still see that today, because there's still land dispossession. A lot of our people, in fact, the so-called colored community, which are the descendants mostly of the Khoi and the San people, they are so marginalized. Our people are jobless. They are landless, and it's a dire situation that we have. People have lost their identity. It's really, really sad. A lot of our people don't even know that they are descendants of the Khoi and the Sun. And this is where IFNASA also plays a very important role, where we are going back and we're trying to educate people about their history. We are doing language activism as well. I myself, I teach one of the Khoi languages called Kweka Govab, making people aware of this language and just instilling this and bringing it back into us, because our language is something that was stolen from us. Our culture is something that was stolen from us. And we now have a lot of leaders that are bringing that back. We are now doing our rituals once again, and we are expressing ourselves once again as the indigenous people of the land.
Yeah, and what more, though, do you think should be done to actually educate more people about this part of our history? Because how the stories about these wars are being told is important. How do you think that a lot of these stories are being told today, and how do you think that can be the case? Because I just do feel like sometimes we're not telling our own stories, and our stories have been told by other people, and in the process manipulated how those stories are being told. The narrative must still suit theirs, and I wonder what it is, if we can be more intentional as a society, as a government, about telling our own stories, and how do we go about doing that, do you think?
No, certainly that's a very good point. And over the last couple of years, we have seen a lot more people coming afore and telling our stories from our people's perspective and from our people's voices. Now, the history of the Khoi and the Sun is very dispersed, and a lot of the history, like you said, it's not told by our people. We have the very people that colonized us were the people telling the story. So, of course, they are going to manipulate it and make it sound a little bit better than what it really was, when in fact we went through a lot of horrific things. Our forefathers went through a lot of horrific encounters. But what I love is the fact that we have so many people that are doing research now, and we have really good books, such as the one that one of the listeners mentioned, The Lie of 1652. I'm currently reading that. It's a book by Patrick Millet, right? And that gives you a lot more insight into what really happened, and it's such an eye-opener. It's actually a very emotional book because it takes you down a really horrific journey. And then you can actually see how it is that we ended up where we currently are. But now, like I said to you, there are some of us that are actively going out. There are a lot of leaders that are going out and that are telling our stories from our people's perspective. We are also going and we're talking to our elders and trying to find out exactly what it is that happened, We have more, we don't have a lot of museums, but there are a couple of museums where we can learn a little bit more. We see artifacts and bits and pieces, but I think that there's a lot more that can be done. And just, that activism around our identity, who it is that we really are. And like IFNASA is very big on moving away from this so-called colored classification, because that's not really who we are. So we want to make people aware of who it is that they are. We want to teach them their languages.
Yeah. Michelle Johnson, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for the work that you do at IFNASA. She's the Secretary General of the Indigenous First Nation Advocacy South Africa.
Summer just got extra with Vodacom's free gifts on summer deals, like the Samsung Galaxy A56 on a 1 gig red core plan for just $399 per month over 36 months. Save 1,080 and get a free Samsung charger worth $499 and Samsung Galaxy Buds Core worth $999, redeemable via Samsung Members app. Available in-store only. T's and C's apply. Further together, Vodacom.
Let's count backward. 5. Insurance. 4. Pineapple. 3. Insurance. 2. Pineapple. 1. You're under. Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
You know what success looks like. Now discover why focus is the driving force behind every success story. Catch 702 in conversation with Momentum on The Money Show with Stephen Krutters every Thursday, discussing the science of success. Step into the mindset of top financial achievers and discover how your thinking, behavior, and focus can shape lasting financial success. That's 702 in conversation with Momentum. Thursdays on The Money Show with Stephen Krutters. Momentum, your journey to success on 702. Momentum is an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Bali Dlamini. Final preparations are underway in Pretoria for an inquiry into the fitness to hold office of Gauteng prosecution's boss Andrew Chau. The inquiry is set to begin this morning. Chau was suspended by President Cyril Ramaphosa in July amid serious allegations against him. Khomotso Modise has more.
Advocate Andrew Chau has held the post of South Gauteng Director of Public Prosecution since 2011, and since then he's faced several allegations of quashing prosecutions against the politically connected. Some of the allegations that will take center stage at the inquiry is the decision to withdraw a murder case against former police crime intelligence boss Richard Mdluli and pursuing racketeering charges against former KZN Hawks head Johan Boyson despite a lack of evidence. This week, prosecution's boss, Shamila Batowi, is expected to testify at the inquiry after she recommended Chauke's suspension to President Cyril Ramaphosa. Chairing the proceedings will be retired Justice Bess Ngabinde, with Advocate Elizabeth Baloyi Mir and attorney Tenjiwe Vilagazi. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News.
Let's stay in Pretoria. At the Union Buildings, 2 DA members of Parliament have officially been sworn in to President Cyril Ramaphosa's cabinet, filling the positions left vacant after 2 ministers were dismissed. DA National spokesperson Willie Oukamp is now the new Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment. Oukamp's appointment comes after the party leader, John Steenhuisen, asked President Cyril Ramaphosa to remove Deon George from that position. Alpha Ramushwana reports.
The newly appointed Minister for Forestry, Fisheries and Environment and DA MP Willie Oukamp takes office just over a year after the Government of National Unity was formed. He takes over from Deon George, who was dismissed from the position after DA leader John Steenhuisen requested the President to remove him from cabinet. At the same time, Alexandra Abrahams has officially been sworn in as the Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry. Abrahams replaces Andrew Whitfield, who was dismissed in June for undertaking an international trip without the President's approval.
I, Alexandra Lillian Amelia Abrams, swear that I will be faithful to the Republic of South Africa and will obey, respect and uphold the Constitution and all other laws of the Republic.
Both DA members of Cabinet say they're looking forward to serving the country. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News at the Union Buildings in Pretoria.
In other matters affecting the head of state, President Cyril Ramaphosa says the country will be able to showcase an economy on the rise as South Africa prepares to host the first G20 summit on African soil. Ramaphosa says several key indicators and developments in the past week illustrate green shoots of an economic recovery taking shape, from improved job numbers to better credit ratings. Ramaphosa was writing in his weekly newsletter as world leaders from the biggest economies prepare to descend on South Africa for this weekend's G20 Leaders Summit in Johannesburg. Baba Londenze has more.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says in the country's economic recovery, the most noteworthy improvements have been witnessed in the energy sector. He says Eskom is now on the road to recovery with massive investment in renewable energy generation and vastly improved electricity supply. Ramaphosa says unemployment is also down, with the latest data from Stats SA showing that the official unemployment rate fell to 1.9% between July and September this year. It's down from 33.2% recorded in the previous quarter. He says this translates to nearly 250,000 more people in employment in the third quarter. Ramaphosa writes that modeling from the University of Stellenbosch's Bureau of Economic Research has estimated that the potential impact of the Operation Vulindlela reforms could lift South Africa's long-term growth rate by as much as 3.5% when fully implemented. Babalo Ndenza, Eyewitness News.
In the courts now, the trial against MK Party Member of Parliament Duduzile Zuma returns to the Durban High Court today. The daughter of former President Jacob Zuma faces 2 counts of public violence and another of incitement to commit terrorism linked to the deadly 2021 July unrest. She's accused of using her ex-social media platform to incite violence, which led to the deaths of more than 400 people and widespread looting in KZN and Gauteng. Nhlanhla Mabaso has more.
The trial against Duduzile Zuma is set to enter its second week after adjourning for 2 days last week. In the first week, the state argued that her social media posts spread terror and encouraged the looting of businesses in parts of the province. State prosecutor advocate Yuri Gangai also concluded leading evidence by Police Major General Gopal Gavenda, who was tasked to probe social media posts about the July riots. Gopal told the court that he believes Zuma Sambula's tweets sparked the violence. The 43-year-old pleaded not guilty to the charges against her. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Durban.
And in Ecuador, voters have rejected the return of U.S. military bases to the country in a referendum held yesterday. With 3/4 of the vote now counted, about 60% have voted no to lifting a long-standing ban on foreign bases. The rejection effectively blocks the U.S. military from returning to an airbase at Manta on the Pacific coast. The vote comes against the backdrop of U.S. military airstrikes against alleged drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean as well as the Pacific. The results of the vote are seen as a major political blow to Trump-friendly President Daniel Noboa. Gold is trading at $4,057.46 an ounce. The rand is at 17.08 to the dollar, 22.48 to the pound, 19.82 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $63.78 a barrel.
And in the traffic in Gilview, we still have got that accident along the N12 East. It's right near Klipprivier Drive, delays from Xavier Street. As a result, if you continue making your way towards areas like Lynmeyer, the road has been closed off to traffic between Klipprivier Drive and Komara Streets just to clear the scene. While traveling on the Mike 1 North bumper-to-bumper traffic, this is between Boyson's Road and the Crown Interchange.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng with scattered showers and thundershowers expected. Temperatures will peak at highs of between 17 and 18 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, final preparations are underway in Pretoria for an inquiry into the fitness to hold office of Gauteng prosecution's boss, Andrew Chau.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
Nine minutes after 11 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome. This is the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thanks for staying with us here on 702. Time for our Family Matters feature.
702.
Family Matters.
So today, I want us to have a conversation about boundaries when it comes to your generosity. Do you consider yourself a generous person? And if you do, have you been able to set and put boundaries on your generosity? Because we often celebrate generosity, right, as one of the most admirable human qualities. It's a trait that deepens our relationships. It strengthens our sense of community. It offers us comfort in difficult moments. But behind that warmth and connection it creates, generosity can carry a quieter, more complicated truth. Many of us give not only out of kindness, but out of obligation. Some out of guilt or a deep desire to be seen as, quote unquote, good. And when giving becomes a measure of our worth, then it really drains us to the point of emotional, financial, or physical exhaustion. So, in other words, what can look like generosity can be in reality be self-neglect dressed up as virtue. And I know this because often we get calls on the show when we have similar conversations from people who say, they feel used, or they're actually giving things because they feel guilty. Some people say, I just feel like I'm only needed when there's something that is needed in the family. Some people feel like their friends or family are feeling entitled to their generosity, so they always want you to come through with something. Have you ever found yourself pouring and pouring into others until there's nothing left for you? Do you struggle perhaps with putting boundaries on your generosity? Or maybe you know someone who struggles to put limits on their generosity. Give us a call on 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. That's where you can share your experiences with us. Kefilo Mujapelo is a social worker, psychosocial well-being and employee wellness practitioner who's going to guide us through this conversation. Thanks for your time, Kefilo. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement, and to the listeners. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for making time. When we talk about generosity, of course, it's something we do celebrate, something we do encourage. It's seen as a beautiful, admirable trait. But why exactly is it important for us to be generous before we even get to the need to put these guardrails and just be more cautious and put boundaries? Why is it important for our relationships?
I suppose, in a simple term, we are human, and part of us portraying that humanity is being kind, and I guess that's where it starts. Before I can say a lot on that, but that's where I feel like the basis of being human says be kind to the next person.
Yeah. What does that, because there's healthy generosity, right?
True.
And maybe we must
True.
understand that before we understand what can be unhealthy generosity. So what does healthy generosity look like, especially within families and close relationships?
Indeed. Exactly. So in a simple term, for me, I would say, first of all, from what point or where's that generosity coming from? So, for example, if it's coming from a wholeness point of view. Hello?
Yeah, we're listening. Go ahead.
Yes, Clement. It's that to say from where is this generosity coming from? If it's coming from a bit of wholeness, where a person is whole, they are full, it's okay. That's healthy. An unhealthy one is when somebody has to compromise something about themselves, or they have to feel something by portraying that kindness. I want to show it, then it's not acting from a point of wholeness. But if it's positive, if it's emanating from a point of wholeness, and I'm self-aware, I'm okay, I'm good, I'm not feeling anything in me that is lacking. So that for me is a healthy generosity.
Yeah. And of course, there are other people who give not out of abundance, but out of guilt. They give out of obligation or even fear of being seen as selfish. What are some of the signs that someone is giving from anxiety rather than from genuine willingness?
if there could be some form of emotional exhaustion, if it's coming from a point of you are giving from emptiness, then definitely, because at some point it's also going to affect me back. So hence I'm saying if it's from a point of wholeness, I'm giving, yes, there's generosity on the excess. It's not eating out of me. And of course, even if sometimes certain things are going to eat out of me, maybe you are my brother, you don't have money, I'm going to help you, but that money was meant for something. I can give you within my boundaries. That's when now we are talking about healthy boundaries, to say, I can give you this much, I can afford to lose that, but this one I won't. I'm not compromising myself to an extent of pleasing somebody at my own expense. So positively and sharing that, communicating that with another person. Now you are clear. You are setting a boundary. You are clear. For me, I think it's, if I could infuse that with a bit of relational intelligence, that for me where the trick is, to can be able to communicate anything around that, relaying what's happening on my side and acting from a point of fullness, not wanting you to see me as if I've got money, therefore compromising my own needs, giving you just for you to be okay, and yet I'm suffering and I'm now compromised, emotionally exhausted. I'm feeding other people's basket at my own expense. Then it's already signaling negativity there and anxiety, because there's an emotional exertion of some sort.
So how can we know that this is authentic generosity or generosity? And let me ask it differently. Can generosity be rooted in self-abandonment?
Ooh, well said, well articulated, definitely. And it's interesting because just this morning, just 10 minutes ago, I was having a conversation with my twin brother. So my husband is out of the country, and then my twin brother came to assist me with the kids and all that. And I was telling him to say, you don't have to help when you are not in a good space. I can have another plan. But your point is that you don't communicate. You're not clear in your tone. You say, we will see, we will do this. And I know you're trying to put things together financially. December is coming. You're also doing your own things. So tell me, you don't abandon yourself for me. Tell me where you are so that I can plan around you. I can still have other options and pay for them instead of use you to, and yet at your own expense, because now you're abandoning your things to help me. The next thing, I'm okay. When I'm done with my space, my kids, the school has closed. Now you go back to your life. You've abandoned your own things and responsibilities at my own expense. So don't do that. So for me, that's where now self-abandonment come in, because now you want to please your twin sister. You want to do this, but at what point? At your own cost, at what? And you don't have to just do that, because I know you are kind. And I'm not going to question your kindness because I know you. So it's another thing. If I don't know you, I'll say you're selfish and whatnot. And that's why I also depart at. If you don't know me, and if I say something and I'm protecting at that point, I'm not abandoning myself. And you as Clement, or him, let me say him as my junior, come and say, when I needed you, you're not, then you don't know me. You don't know me. So, but if I know myself, I am full, I can be able to relay that to you from a point of wholeness. I'm saying, as I'm saying, relational intelligence is key now. To say, where am I? Am I aware what's happening emotionally? If I'm relinquishing my responsibilities to go help my sister, where is that compromising me? And he communicates that. Now we are clear. We can even navigate around it. To say, when the kids are at school, I can do this. I'm at work. I can compromise the Monday. You can take this day, do your things. Now we are navigating life nicely, because you're not compromising yourself. I am not compromising myself. We are both okay. In that way, nobody's eating outside on the other. There's no self-abandonment, because you're okay, I'm okay. We communicated, we are good, and I'm assisting you, yet you are assisting me. We are good. Now it's good relationship. We are okay. It's healthy.
Yeah, because sometimes people are scared to say I'm unable to do this and that because they feel the guilt, or maybe sometimes when they've said it in the past that I'm unable to do 1, 2 for you, then the reaction they got was negative, and now they're scared to even be honest when they can't do certain things, or when they can't buy groceries this month, or when they can't contribute towards the Christmas lunch, because they are so scared of, what is the reaction going to be about? Do we have instances of people who overgive, overgiving, and why do we have people who fall into patterns of overgiving, without even realizing it?
I think they're realizing it, because at some point it's eating out of you, especially with families, and especially where everything depends. You know that people depend on me at home. If I don't have it, where's my mother gonna get it? Then you end up doing everything and taking your whole money to give to your mother when you don't have anything. So for me, in that case, you're also abandoning yourself. You're also because you're not communicating it. I was also having that conversation with my other friend to say, at Limpopo, everything depends on me. If I don't have this, where's my mom gonna get this? And I'm saying, if we can have that healthy conversation, your mom can realize, okay, this week I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna take out this. Sometimes you get to a point where, if nicely communicated, I can say, Mom, can I buy you snacks? Just go and sell magunya so that you can have the extra 200 which I can give you. But I can give you 50 ranta. You have a dough. Flour. You can bake 1, 2, 3. Then we communicate. So in that way, for me, I've realized that with my relationship, it's even empowering, and I don't create dependency unnecessarily on me, because I'm sharing with the other people to say, family, this is where I am. And then I'm enabling another person to think creatively and broader than the situation. Hence, I'm saying, if you can separate the situation, because they're dynamic, things change on the time. Yeah. Going back to how you started this conversation just now, to say things will change. But if you know me as your daughter or as your friend, and you know me, today I don't have, yes, it looks as if I might have because yesterday I bought whatever. But this is where there's dynamic, things change all the time, and you're not in my space. You can judge, sit in that side. But with relational intelligence, I can tell you, this is what's happening on my side. I can give you another view which is a bit skewed. In your side, there's a blind spot you can't see because it's my life. I see everything. I can fully give you a picture on my side and say, Mom, this is what's happening. And then you give me yours. Sometimes I'm not going to meet you at the point of your need, but I'll meet you where I can, because that's what I can. And that's where I can, to this level, to this degree. Yeah. And at that time, you're not realizing that you are actually giving another person something to think about, because we are all creative. We can think and even if you're not creative, sometimes situations are not the same, yes, but sometimes a person can understand because we talk. Now I relate with you better emotionally because I could give you as my mom where I am. And yes, I was not able to help you at that time. But now our relationship has taken another 10 because now I can be more open with you. So it might not have helped you. Yes, you might not have gotten the help that you needed at that time. But we have taken another 10 of a relationship, which is what I like, because now we can talk about our needs. We can talk about this. I don't have to die alone. One is saying I need to help women, this and that. Now I can be open, and I don't have to feel the burdening of carrying the people in my family, because now I'm talking to you, you are talking to me, I'm over emotionally unburdening myself as well by talking to you. Yeah. So I'm releasing emotionally, but financially it's not released yet, but emotionally I'm okay. We are okay. We are relationshiping where we are good. So one thing releases on another. So for me, that's how I look at it.
Yeah. It's 22 minutes now after 11 o'clock. I've got some calls and some WhatsApp voice notes coming through. Listeners sharing their inputs, some asking questions. So we'll start with those after the break. We're talking about generosity because sometimes it can be exploited. Sometimes people are doing it because they feel guilty. They do it out of obligation, out of fear of being seen as selfish. And that is not a healthy way to actually be generous. And I think, as we continue with our conversation, Kefilo Mojapilu will help us set those boundaries. But what's been your experience around generosity? Are you a generous person? Have you found that your generosity has been taken advantage of? Have you tried to put some guardrails, some boundaries, and how was that received by the people who are normally recipients of your generosity? Give us a call on 011-883-0702. Send a WhatsApp on 072-702-1702.
702 was in conversation with Momentum on The Money Show with Stephen Grootes, discussing the power of focus and the science of success.
You've developed a thing called money fingerprint. I mean, what is that? How does that sort of drive our financial decisions?
So basically, we're giving the ability to financial advisors to have discussions with clients or investors about their kind of factory settings, right? So we all have these attitudes, experiences that we collect throughout our lives. We have personality traits, that's our set of characteristics that make us who we are. And this sort of interacts with markets, it interacts with various sort of things that happen in the world, and it influences our behavior. So basically what we're doing is we're giving financial advisors the ability to look at this scientifically through a psychometric assessment to try and bring out what these likely behaviors might be, and then try and help people get better outcomes.
Visit momentum.co.za for more info. Momentum, your journey to success. Momentum is an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
The crazy store's got deals galore and everything you need. From tinsel presents, wrapping, and a star for your Christmas tree. We've got all sorts of games and sports, many toys to buy. Stationery, arts and crafts, come on and don't be shy. No need to panic shop, we're your one-stop Christmas spot. Your table will be dressed and you will not be stressed. When Christmas Eve is here, you'll want to sing and cheer. I got everything at the crazy store and I can't wait for next year.
Hey, you never know what you might find this Christmas.
The sale of the season is coming. The Galaga Black Friday sale is around the corner. Discover luxury styles from iconic brands like Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger, premium denims, sneakers, accessories, and more. Your summer of style awaits. Visit the Galaga Black Friday sale from Thursday, the 27th of November, to Sunday, the 30th of November at the Galaga Convention Center in Midrand. First to come, first to style.
702.
Family Matters.
25 minutes after 11 o'clock. Let's start with your WhatsApps that are coming on 072 702 1702.
Dumela, Clement, and your guest, Kingsley from Germiston. We were raised to give from the goodness of your heart without any expectation. But I have experienced situations where you give and you give. And for me, the line is where you give and it is expected, or it becomes expected, or it becomes exploited. And that's where I then start to pull back. Because some people, there are people who are parasitic in nature, and your giving becomes their opportunity. And those are people who I'm very wary of.
So how do we then deal with such people? Kifilo Mojapelo, how do people set boundaries then? Because when you set boundaries, then you're seen as something else, especially when people are used to receiving things in a particular way from you, the entitlement over the years. The minute you start setting boundaries, then now you're seen as, oh, he's now or she's now suddenly selfish, doesn't care about us anymore. What's the best way to set the boundaries? Should you speak to the people who often were at the receiving end of your generosity, or this is an individual exercise? Yeah, Kifilo, can you hear us? Something seems to be wrong there with Kifilo's line. We can't hear. Let me get the producers to work on that and fix that line. In the meantime, let me go through some of the messages that have come through on the WhatsApp line. There is on the WhatsApp line, someone says, "Hi Clement, this is Gogo. I find myself as one of those who put boundaries on generosity. Most of the time, it is used to guilt trip you and a sense of entitlement. If you can't, then the atmosphere changes. This is what I experience from my daughter and her children. And I wonder what's best to do. How do I deal with this? Because I'm not meeting my needs as I wish because of this heavy burden that is put on me." And as Gefila said earlier on, the minute you're starting to feel so emotionally exhausted, you feel you're being used, that is the moment that you need to start asking yourself some really, really serious questions about the arrangement that exists. I'll get Kifila to perhaps give you some tips about that. Another one says, "Clement, great topic this morning on generosity. It's not always monetary. It's also emotional support. However, when you yourself want emotional support, this particular person runs for the hill." That's a message there from Anonymous. Kifila, we've got you on a better line now. Were you able to hear that voice note?
I only heard it towards the end, but I had you can just rephrase the question, please.
So there's a message we've also gotten. So it was more of a statement, in fact, not so much a question, but it speaks to this message that I'm also about to read to you now from Gogo, who says she finds herself in one of those situations where she has had to put the boundaries. But then when you do that, you are being guilt-tripped. There's a sense of entitlement. And whenever you put in those boundaries, the atmosphere changes. And Gogo says this is what she experiences from her own daughter. and the children as well. So she was asking, how do I deal with this, because I'm not meeting my needs as I wish because of this heavy burden put on me. And she's busy prioritizing people who are feeling so entitled to her generosity. And when it's your child and your grandchildren, how do you even address that?
Clement, I feel like honestly, it's. I would say, you know, when you marinate the conversation and you start somebody somewhere to say, that's how normally I start with those. I don't want to say difficult conversation, because difficulty it's very subjective. So I would say, if you understand that it might not be well received from the other side, starting it by saying, you know what, my kids, this is where I am. Then you start setting the basis of your conversation before you can state your real needs or your worries. To say, guys, for example, I really love my grandkids. This is where I am. I would like to provide it this way. And however, this is how much I have currently. I also thought at this point I would be thriving as I'm retired and this and that. I would have my own needs that I wanted to meet. And you explain that. After that, you come back to say, you now say exactly what you want to say after setting the basis for somebody to receive you. Because sometimes we start the conversation having not marinated the basis. Therefore, it makes another person not to receive you where you are. So it's actually you setting and marinating somebody's ears and then saying what you need and end it up as well to say, you know what, you'll forgive me if you're forgive me if I'm setting something that I'm not, but I think you know me. I'm a generous person. I love my kids nonetheless. Now you are separating between the person and the situation, therefore, and then how you communicate it as well, how you relay that, and then, you know, so that's for me, I would say that's how to go about that conversation.
Yeah, it's 11:31 now. Let's get the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. Mbali, good morning.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. The city of Ekurhuleni has reappointed Lieutenant Colonel Gilebogile Tepa as the spokesperson for its Metro Police Department. Tepa recently appeared before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, where she provided details on the alleged corrupt dealings of suspended EMPD Deputy Chief Julius Mkhwanazi. During her testimony, Tepa also revealed that she was assaulted at gunpoint and threatened to remain silent about the corruption that she had knowledge of. At the same time, concerns have been raised over the 121 dockets that were taken from the KZN Political Killings Task Team to National Police Headquarters in Pretoria. The dockets were taken to police headquarters for auditing, and once that was completed, they remained there due to confusion of what needed to happen with them. The matter has been put before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry today as more evidence is unpacked on the disbandment of the Political Killings Task Team. And 2 DA members of Parliament have officially been sworn in to President Cyril Ramaphosa's cabinet, filling the positions left vacant after 2 ministers were dismissed. DA National Spokesperson Willie Oukamp has now been sworn in as the new Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment. Oukamp's appointment comes after the party leader, John Steenhuisen, asked the president to remove Dion George from that position. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traveling on the N12 East, we've got a huge delay coming out of Xavier Street towards Klip Drive. That's due to an earlier accident where a truck overturned. As a result, the road from Klip Drive has been closed off to traffic. So please use alternative routes like the M1 North as well as Xavier Street to navigate your way around the Mondio as well as Pasonia and even Gilview areas. If you are traveling on the N3 North, we've got delays between Vincent Chabalala Road and the Baklu interchange. That's due to roadworks, and more roadworks are causing delays on the N3 South. This is just as you come out of the Kilulis interchange and heading towards the Joburg CBD. Bumper to bumper traffic on the M1 North between Boyson's Road and the Crown interchange. And that's your last update from me, Mo Ramela. Otherwise, Karabo Jali will have your next traffic update from the top of the hour onwards. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Let's count backward. 5. Insurance. 4. Pineapple. 3. Insurance. 2. Pineapple. 1. You're under. Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited. a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
Lock into roaring rugby action this season with Hollywood Bets. Bet 50 Rand or more on any Vodacom United Rugby Championship fixture and you could win a share of 300,000 Rand in cash, betting vouchers or prizes. This includes Smeg bar fridges, macro vouchers, a Sharks captain run or a player circle experience. Only the toughest team will prevail. Bet now and let the rugby rumble begin. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Take the ultimate spin with 10bet and me, Andile Ngube, to win a luxury BMW X3. Join 10bet.co.za. Play selected games. Every 10 rands you play earns you points. Hit the top of the leaderboard and the prize could be yours. T's and C's apply. 10bet is a licensed betting operator and supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 shall be permitted to bet. Betting can be addictive. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710. License number 921096661.
702.
Family Matters.
25 minutes before 12 o'clock, we're having a conversation about generosity and the boundaries that are necessary to protect yourself from being exploited, to protect yourself from your generosity being abused. And we're taking your calls on 011-883-0702. You can send your WhatsApps as well on 072-702-1702. We have got some messages that have come through, but before I get to them, let's listen to this WhatsApp voice note.
Hi, Clement. Marimpo in Pretoria. Clement, you know what? I'm a giver naturally. And this has backfired so much that I'm working so hard to teach my children not to be like me. Because once you say no or you say I don't have, then you are a bad person. People give you bad vibes. So the entitlement treatment that takers have, it's very bad, and I really need to teach my kids not to be like me because of my experiences. Thank you for the topic.
Thank you very much. So a lot of people are, of course, asking Kefilo, how do we set the boundaries? Because on one hand, yes, we want to avoid a situation where we do things out of obligation, out of guilt, out of fear of being seen as selfish. But on the other hand, we do want to assist, our loved ones. So where does one begin in setting up those boundaries around their generosity?
Yeah, and it's a constant element because I hear everybody when they come to my practice to say I give a lot, and that's what kind of like made me realize that people are actually generous and they are great, but now it's bad because it's at their own expense. Now going back to your question, for me, hence I'm saying let's relate it to relational intelligence and now combine the two to say you can still give generously, and when we say selfless, but it's contained within boundaries. You are not selfless, you're not selfish, but you are acting from a point of wholeness. You know yourself. Even if somebody says something about you and they give you bad vibes, and you can clearly separate that, and you don't have to walk away with that emotional burden of whatever that another person is giving you. So you still, for me, when I'm saying relational intelligence, you're still managing yourself and you're managing the interpersonal relationship with others, but being aware of this relational exchange that exists between the two of you and still maintaining your peace at all costs, so that you are not left with the emotional burden because it's going to eat out on you. Now that's where anxiety kicks in. So manage that beautifully, where I tell you exactly where I am. If you don't understand, that's not my problem. Not to say you are a bad person, but if I've given you and I'm kind, I'm not rude, I'm clearly stating my needs and stating you what I can and I cannot give within the constraint of my resources, and you don't understand, then that's when I'm saying then I'm departing from this relationship because it's more on a transactional basis of what on the resource aspect and not on what you know me as a person that I am and who I am and what my philosophies are. If you're going to depart from me because I failed you at the 1 point or at 2 points because I could not, then we don't know each other. You don't know my values. I don't know you. You don't even know my philosophies, because if you knew, you could know that this is what the person thinks. This is where they are. They don't have. They can do this. And I also don't want somebody to give me at their own expense. Then it also set the basis to say, now we are managing relationally intelligently. So because now I'm saying I don't want you, Clement, as my friend, to give me and you are compromised. The next thing you feel bad. I don't want that. I don't want your giving to take away emotions out of you. Let it take out that resource, but let it not compromise you emotionally. I would feel so bad. So if you can manage that beautifully and you communicate, I think what I'm highlighting is the communication. Share that emotion. If you are reading that somebody's angry, say it. To say, I'm sorry, my friend, I don't think this. Say it so that you clear the air, you walk away. When you walk away from that conversation, you are good. You've said what you had to say. Now you're going back to yourself. That's when the individual aspect of work and your cognitive and behavior, that's when now you are guiding yourself. You are managing you. You manage another person. You are still good.
Yes. On the WhatsApp line here, the text says, "Good morning, Clement. I've learned the hard way. I've been too generous to both family and all those around me, and I've been taken advantage of. I've even tried to get employment for some of the people. Today, none of these people are willing to assist with anything. I'm currently battling financially, and I've come to realize that I could have done things differently. Some of these people were not even able to say thank you for what I've done for them, and are just too self-entitled. And the other problem is that I'm not young anymore. The English say once bitten, twice shy." That's a message from Anonymous in Diepkloof, Soweto. In fact, I did have someone who sent a message, who says, let's also look at the other side, that there are people who are generous, yes, Kifule, but somehow they always expect to be praised and to be sort of worshipped, for lack of a better phrase. That just because they helped you with your studies, or they helped you pay off your debt, or they gave you emotional support, now you've got these great expectations of them just because they were able to assist you. How? Because that's something else, right? Because then you will think that someone is not coming through for you. Maybe they're just ticked off by the expectation you have, that just because you have been there to assist them, now you're expecting them to just treat you like God.
Exactly. Exactly, Clement. As I'm saying, whenever you give, from what point are you giving from? Are you giving so that you can feel that you are feeling something in you? And what is that thing? Say it so that you're also honest and real with yourself. To say, I think I am, my giving of people is actually self-centered. It's feeling something within me that there's a lack. Then I can be honest with myself and work on that lack. Instead of giving now, I want to tell everybody that in our families, there's that person that you never ask from, because I know everybody will know that I asked. And I would rather die in my corner, even if there's help, because I know you're going to be telling everyone. So for me, that's when now the values come in place, to say, as individuals, what are your values around giving? What have you said? What are you clear on to say? When I give, you don't have to say thank you. After I give you, I go back to myself and say, God, thank you that I had the capacity to can give. And then that's how I do it. And I'm like, oof. When I go back to tick on that day, as I show up to say I've ticked on the value of kindness and generosity, it had nothing to do with you. I mean, it's more on me and what I'm giving within me. And it's not because of you, but my value is to say, God, this is how I pay tribute to the life that you brought me. Let me do this. And I tick and I go. Whether you're going to say thank you or not, don't even go tell people, because I don't want people to know. So those are the things that to say, look at yourself. Why are you giving? From what point are you giving from? If it's not from a wholeness point of view, there's something wrong. Even if you can give until Jesus comes, you give everything. If you are feeling something, your giving is feeling the lack within you, then we will all suffer because of that, because there's something, it's a negative giving. It's coming from a negative point. It can never be a positive result, either for yourself or for those that you're giving.
Clement, my brother, I see trying to explain your position as being wrong. If I can't give, I just tell you I can't. Actually, I'm always happy and waiting to find myself in that position where I deny somebody something. Especially those that I feel they are entitled, like my younger brother. And I will just tell him I can't. In fact, when I feel like he is becoming a bit not settled when I'm giving him that answer, I take it even further and tell him that I don't want to. And or I'm doing all that with, sometimes I can and I want to, but I just want him to feel that there's the entitlement. I want to break his entitlement. You see, so sometimes I feel like explaining too much. Now they begin to reason with your reasons. They begin to tell you, no, why don't you wait for next month because mine is more urgent than yours. So I don't explain that much.
So don't explain. Don't explain that much. But that's a reality, Kefile. There are people who just feel so entitled. Like they feel if they're not getting what has been coming to them. And sometimes there are people who will go through a rough patch. So maybe you used to send, 5,000 or 10,000 home every month. You go through a rough patch. You can't send that anymore. And you've explained your situation. But now they treat you weirdly because they just feel like you are being ridiculous. You must somehow make a plan to sustain what you've been able to do. So it gets tricky like that in other families. Someone else says, hi, good day, Clement, and to Kefile there. Me and my brother, we're not on good terms because when I feel generous, he doesn't pay back. On the other hand, he's earning a salary. I think he's taking advantage of me because if I need assistance, no one can assist. I told myself I need to put my foot down, period. Suppose that's like a boundary that this listener has put down. And then another one says, Clement, hello, I think if you say you're a giver and then expect something in return, then you're not really a giver. And then someone else says, hi, Clement, my communicating the boundary is the easier part, in my opinion. The part that is difficult is accepting that the boundary may not be received politely and result in emotional manipulation that takes a strain on the relationship. That's quite important, hey?
But
expecting
Clement,
the response to the boundary that you set.
For me, Clement, I feel like everything goes back to one thing: my values, and situations will change. People will come with different things. But if I make you clear to say, actually, I value 1, 2, 3, and if you're not gonna be honest with me as to your reason for needing money, this is where I will depart. Then you're solid on that. And even this one, when I'm not helping my brother because like that guy said to say, because he's taking advantage and he's doing, but it's you saying it alone. Why don't you say to him? Then you clear the air. Tomorrow he'll not say, when you didn't help me, and because sometimes he'll really be in a great need, but you're also alone in this thing. You're not making him aware that you are entitled and I've got a problem with this. And you say it in a nice way as well. And when I say nice, within the constraints of relational intelligence, to say, you know what, I've observed 1, 2, 3, and I'm aware that that's my observation. I'm speaking from a subjective point of view. I don't know how you sit on your side. If there's anything that I said that is a bit flawed, I'm just going to say from my point of view, this is what I see. You'll tell me what you see from your point of view. We'll see where we are relating. We'll see where we are connecting. That conversation, saying it out like that, that's what I see, relational intelligence. That's what I mean. And then you can tell the person, then this entitlement, you've said it. You don't have to be alone to say this one is entitled. You've said it. You've cleared the air. And every time you go back to that point, so that the person knows why your relationship with them in that way. Not to deny me intentionally, knowing I need help as your brother, but you're always denying. No.
Yeah. It's 12 minutes now before 12 o'clock. More of your calls and WhatsApps after this.
Collaboration works best when it's human first, AI enabled. Vodacom Business gives your teams the tools to share ideas and deliver big projects, to meet, chat, and co-create. With 24/7 local support always in reach, we connect people, not just devices. Search Vodacom Business Enterprise applications. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Vodacom Business. Further together.
Why wait? Sell your ride now and enjoy instant payment with a seamless experience. We Buy Cars isn't playing when it comes to buying cars. It's faster and easier than you think. Curious about what they'll offer? Well, visit webuycars.co.za today. Looking for your next ride? Explore a massive range of cars, bikes, boats, bakkies, and more online or in-store. We Buy Cars, the best way.
You are not dreaming. You are repeating. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
702.
Family Matters.
It's 11 minutes now before 12 o'clock. We continue with your calls and your WhatsApps, sharing your inputs. If you've got questions, maybe you want to know how to address a situation where your boundaries are not being respected, or you need help with setting those boundaries when it comes to your generosity. Kefilo Mujapelu is a social worker, a psychosocial wellness and employee wellness practitioner who's been guiding us through this conversation, because there are a lot of you out there who are generous, but that generosity has taken advantage of, and it's time for you to put those boundaries. We've got some of your WhatsApps that are coming on 072 702 1702. Let me start with this question though. Kefile, there's a question here from someone who's asking about just fearing the response. Remember that listener who said that the difficult part is not really setting the boundaries and communicating them, but it's how people respond. So the question now is, for those who fear disappointing others, setting boundaries can feel almost impossible. So how can people start addressing the underlying fears that make boundaries so emotionally difficult?
Oof. I would say start being comfortable with that discomfort, because you can anyway please anyone. So start accepting that you can please anyone as a basis for that, so that you can then go back to doing the actual work to say. And then indeed, it's not nice when you disappoint a person. But I would rather disappoint you than disappoint myself, because consistently when I disappoint myself, I can't deal with that version of myself. I disconnect, I critique, and I can't deal that. So hence the point for me is to say relational integrity. How do I walk away all the time? That's why then relational intelligence, but then I can go back to say, I want to walk away with this. How do I now manage self and manage this person? Now you start managing, even if the person may not give you, may give you a bad vibe. Go back to yourself and work on something that when you walk away, at least you walk away with that relational integrity, with honest, and you are okay. Because if I've given you myself, I've connected with you on an authentic basis, then I will not doubt my connection with you. You can be left with thinking whatever, but I can separate that from the real me that I know of myself. You can say I'm selfish and whatnot. I will know that they say that because the context at that time, this is what they meant. But I know the kind of person I am. I don't need you to validate me, because I'm full, I'm okay, I'm whole. So hence I'm saying relational intelligence and the self, point of wholeness, and going back to self to say, am I selfish? No, I'm not. It's just that then you separate between rational and emotions. You come to the wise mind to say, I'm not. But I understand why the person might see me that way. But let me walk away. I'm okay. I'm okay. We may not be, but I'm okay. And that's the whole point, because we're talking about anxiety and emotional overburdenedness to say. So guard how you walk away. That's the message for me for today, to say, guard how you walk away.
Yeah, yes.
Morning, Clement. This is an interesting topic, and I think is one that especially family members need to listen to, because most of our family members, they feel entitled to whatever that you have. I'm not in good terms as I'm speaking with my siblings, because before I got married, I'll be able to help them. Even now, what I'm saying is that I can help them if I'm able. But at the moment, my priority is my family. And then they feel like they're entitled. Whenever they say, can you help me with one, two, and I say, I can't. They feel like the woman maybe did something to you. And the fact is that their priorities have changed. That's one thing that they need to accept as our family members, so that we can continue living in harmony.
Morning, Clem. It's Simon in Randburg. The problem with people is if you give them a 5 rand today, they say thank you. Give them on Friday next week, you give them a 5 rand, they say, oh, thank you. The third week, if you don't give them, they say, you know that 5 rand, eh? And then the fourth week, if you don't give them, say, hey, you owe me 5 rand. And then the fifth week, Clement, they're going to say, hey, I want my 5 rand. You know, that's the problem. It's an entitlement thing, eh? So, yeah, man, I just tell you straight, I don't have, man. Sorry. Cheers.
More messages on the WhatsApp line. Greetings, Clement, to you and your guests. My partner, whom I love so much, dumped me because I used to give, but because of a certain situation, I couldn't give. I was questioned, and when I responded honestly, I was given an ultimatum. Please, can you advise, because I still love the person and we're currently not together. Okay, so Kefile, I think, what I'm getting here from this message is that they have broken up. The partner dumped him because he used to give, but because there was a certain situation that happened, he couldn't give as much as he used to anymore. And when he was honest about the situation, he was often given an ultimatum. And this person says, I still love, that my partner who's dumped me. So what do I do in a situation like this?
Clement, what kind of relationship is that?
Yes, it's
and
not.
What am I positioning myself as a giver? What is the basis for interaction? How do we relate? Why should I give? If I can't give, you walk away. So I'm worried about the quality of that relationship more than the quantity and what they get. So for me, it already says they may not be the person that, or not them maybe, or you, but your relations and how you said the things, it might have been based on a wrong, element, for lack of a better way to say that.
Yeah. Because even if you love the person and she comes back or he comes back, they're still going to have the same expectations on you. So how do you deal with that?
And what do I even love about that person? What do they love about me? Are we fake? Are we real? Are we honest? That's another thing.
Yeah. Another one says, Clement, my last straw with my family with my generosity was when my older sister asked, have you ever heard me asking for your help? And then I thought about it. She never asked. I was always overextending myself because I wanted to help my family. Yeah. That has happened to a lot of people where they say to you, but I've never asked you. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for that. But that's because you were just being so generous and overextending yourself to assist.
Clement, definitely. In short, I think I also personally, I feel like I'll never give a person something they didn't ask. As a result, I would stop and give a person that, I know this one is going to my street, and give you a lift. And I realize, but this person is not asking. And sometimes the help that is not asked is not accepted because I didn't ask. You offered. And indeed, I offered. So and sometimes asking also, this is why I thought about it. So sometimes asking, that it takes a lot out of a person. Some people don't like asking because it really extrapolates something within them. It's making vulnerable. And sometimes I try to protect a person and just give before they could ask. But I've also learned the danger of that, to say, don't ask if it's not given. Let them come to you so that the bases are clear. Your relationship on this, they know it's clear. You're not giving what you're not asked for. And hence I'm saying sometimes I do things to say, no, let me preserve, let me see the situation you give, you protect without people seeing, but what? The person comes and say, I never, Clement. And that time you've compromised everything. Is your sister is giving them more than the things that you've got. You're not even affording yourself. And the person say, I did not ask.
I didn't ask for that.
That's the truth. They didn't ask indeed.
Yeah. And that's why the boundaries are so important. Kefile Mojapeli, thank you so much for guiding us through such an important conversation. Always appreciate your time.
At Chamberlain's, there's something for everyone. From building supplies for the home renovators to garden essentials for the homemakers. From power tools for the DIY doers to painting supplies for the patio Picassos. We even have coffee for the slightly sleepy and snacks for the young ones. And for the ones who can never quite find what they're looking for, we have you covered too. With our promise to find and source whatever you need. Chamberlain's, famous for hardware since 1903.
You know what success looks like. Now discover why focus is the driving force behind every success story. Catch 702 in conversation with Momentum on The Money Show with Stephen Grootes every Thursday, discussing the science of success. Step into the mindset of top financial achievers and discover how your thinking, behavior, and focus can shape lasting financial success. That's 702 in conversation with Momentum. Thursdays on The Money Show with Stephen Grootes. Momentum, your journey to success on 702. Momentum is an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
Coming up
on the Midday Report
with Mandy Wheeler.
How are you doing, Mandy?
Very good, thanks. And you?
Sure, what's popping, Vandag?
So an announcement out of the EMPD today that they have now reinstated the spokesperson just days after she testified at the Midlanga inquiry. So we'll speak to them about that. Finally, after years, prosecutor Andrew Chau's fitness to hold office is before an inquiry that starts started today. The ANC, I'm just looking behind me, Kgalema Motlanthe has just started his briefing.
About?
Local government elections preparedness. So he's chair of the electoral what. And then a minister and deputy minister were sworn in today, or being sworn in today. And then we'll wrap up the weekend sport. Wins for the Proteas, Springboks, and Bafana Bafana.
All right, that's what's coming up on the Midday Report with Mandy Wiener. Thank you for listening to the Monday edition of the Clement Manyathela Show. We're back again tomorrow between 9 and 12. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Bye-bye.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Bali Lamini. The city of Ekurhuleni has reappointed Lieutenant Colonel Kilebogile Tipa as the spokesperson for its Metro Police Department. Tipa recently appeared before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, where she detailed the alleged corrupt dealings of suspended EMPD Deputy Chief Julius Mkwanazi. During her testimony, Tipa also revealed that she was assaulted at gunpoint and threatened into silence regarding the corruption she had knowledge of. Her testimony and the events surrounding it were cited as factors behind what has been described as her unjust removal as the EMPD spokesperson in 2023. Ekurhuleni spokesperson Phakamile Mbengashe says Tipa's reinstatement is aimed at bringing greater transparency to the EMPD.
This decision follows an internal review to make sure our communication structure is aligned with the city's approved organizational framework and support our commitment to transparency, accountability, and clean governance. We want to assure residents that this is an administrative corrective measure and it does not interfere with the work of the Madlanga Commission.
At the same time, concerns have been raised over the 121 dockets that were taken from the KZN Political Killings Task Team to National Police Headquarters in Pretoria. The dockets were taken to police headquarters for auditing and once complete, remained there due to confusion over what needed to happen with them. The matter has been put before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry today as more evidence is unpacked on the disbandment of the Political Killings Task Team. Oren Singh reports.
Testifying before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, SAPS's component head for serious and violent crime investigation, Mary Motsepe, revealed how the 121 dockets taken from the PKTT for auditing landed on her lap. She claims the dockets were brought to SAPS's headquarters in Pretoria for auditing in March this year, but remained there until May after KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi refused to have anything to do with them. Motsepe says during a meeting with suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya on 19 May, she was informed that there was approval for the disbandment of the PKTT.
He told me that according to the approved organizational structure, the PKT must cease to operate and fall under murder and robbery.
She says according to her understanding, after Mkhwanazi distanced himself from the dockets, National Police Commissioner Fani Masimola instructed that Sibiya use his own discretion as to what needed to be done with the dockets. Arun Singh, Eyewitness News.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says the country will be able to showcase an economy on the rise as South Africa prepares to host the first G20 summit on African soil. Ramaphosa says several key indicators and developments in the past week illustrate green shoots of an economic recovery taking shape, from improved job numbers to better credit ratings. Ramaphosa was writing in his weekly